Chapter 668. Jin Shiyue had been paying attention to Chen Guang. It was strange that his eyes were becoming more and more empty and unfocused. Could it be that the big scale was useless? Wait a minute. He was speaking again. His lines were different from before. Chen Guang's voice sounded very soft and weak, but the shape of the first word was completely different from before. Jin Shiyue was overjoyed. It was indeed effective. Even his words were different. She moved her ear closer. Chen Guang's voice was a little soft and weak. Swang, too much, I can't see clearly. Jin Shiyue was stunned. Only then did she realize that her hands were shaking as if they were fitted with a small electric motor. Not to mention the days Chen Guang couldn't see clearly, even she couldn't see clearly. How awkward. At this moment, Jiang Yage popped her head out again. Sister Shiyue, is it useful? How could Jin Shiyue admit that it was her mistake? She could only say with a red face and a trembling voice, It's useful, it's useful. His words are different. Jiang Yage was overjoyed. If not for the fact that she was naked, she would have jumped out. What did he say again? Swang, yellow to yellow. Jin Shiyue lied. If Jiang Yage knew that she didn't even see her painstaking efforts clearly, she would definitely be sad. Jiang Yage chuckled. He actually dares to despise me? That's not right. He wasn't like this in the past. Jin Shiyue felt guilty and quickly waved her hand. It's fine, it's fine. He's not in a good state right now. Jiang Yage nodded. That's true. There's no rush. I'll help him recover in a few minutes. With that, she retreated and closed the door, continuing to rummage through the room. This time, Jin Shiyue gritted her teeth. Since one hand was shaking badly, she used her left hand to pinch her right wrist. Both elbows were on the bed, and she leaned over to place the phone in front of Chen Guang's eyes. Although it was still awkward and nervous, the effect was immediate. Her hand stopped shaking. As Chen Guang's lifeless eyes gradually focused on the screen of Popcorn 5 Plus, he widened his eyes even further. Thank you for making such a conscientious product. The effect was really great. The old man's trust in your company was not in vain. Now that he is so rich, he didn't jump into the fruit phone pit and is still a loyal customer of your 1,000 yuan phone. CEO Wang, you are a conscientious entrepreneur. Let's talk about the endorsement later. I'll give you a 5% discount. As long as you don't copy Xiaomi and write double stems in the advertisement, everything will be fine. This picture was as perfect as the reflection of the lake. The narrow space in the bathroom made the light from the headlights exceptionally bright. It made the picture clear in all directions and added a different glow to Jiang Yage's perfect skin. This was truly too beautiful to behold. Chen Guang did not have double stems, let alone the female artist with the surname Liu. But at this time his pile driver should be moving. This was a completely different feeling from hiding in his room and playing with his phone while looking at the pictures sent by Jiang Yage. It was dusk, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on Jin Shiyue's back. It made this famous leader of the Jade Lady sect look so holy, but what she was doing now was so strange. The reason for all this was because he had a sudden burst of playfulness and wanted to play a joke on everyone. Now it seemed that the joke was a little too big. Jin Shiyue's attention was mostly on Chen Guang's eyes. Seeing that his eyes finally focused, she was overjoyed. It was really effective. Under Chen Guang's reluctance, Jin Shiyue moved the first picture back to the small picture, but immediately put up the second one. The range of this picture was much smaller than the previous one. Looking at it, it was the scenery of the north. It was a vast expanse of white snow. In the middle of it there was a pink volcano. Although it was just a picture of a still life, it gave people the feeling that the volcano was alive. Alright, it was said so elegantly. In fact, this picture was just a very indecent selfie, but it gave the modern master of selfie photography, Comrade Jiang Yage, a rich artistic feeling. If it wasn't for the fact that he was pretending to be sick, Chen Guang really wanted to give Jiang Yage a thumbs up. Seeing that his eyes were getting brighter and that he was no longer chanting incantations, Jin Shiyue's excitement gradually overwhelmed her shyness. It was really effective, there was hope. Thank the heavens, thank the heavens. Actually, this was what Chen Guang wanted to say. Jiang Yage poked her head out again. Is it effective, Sister Shiyue? Jin Shiyue's face was red. It was unknown whether it was because of excitement or shyness, but she nodded. It's effective, it's effective. Hurry up and send more. Jiang Yage also looked very excited. No problem. The pile driver silently became more and more ferocious. The third picture was taken from the side of the thigh, and it was full of artistic feeling. She even took pictures of this place. When Jin Shiyue looked at it herself, her eyes widened. She was shocked by Jiang Yage's terrifying courage and shamelessness. This was a talent, born with it, and ordinary people couldn't learn it. She asked herself, was she envious of the relationship between Jiang Yage and Qin Guang? Of course she was envious. But could she do it? She couldn't do it in her entire life. It's impossible, I can't do it. As she shook her head, she silently clamped her legs together. She felt that she was probably infected, and doing this kind of thing gradually gave her a strange feeling. Why am I so shameless? At this moment, Qin Guang was feeling anxious in his heart. Big sis, don't just look at me. The real patient is lying here. Don't you know that I'm almost out of breath from your breathing? How terrifying must it be to have this kind of power? I'm so anxious, I really want to see it. Strange, why did I unknowingly stiffen my neck? Qin Guang raised his head slightly, his eyes drifting to the phone, but because the angle was too big and because of the reflection of the setting sun, he really couldn't see it clearly, and he was burning with anxiety. Finally, Jean Shirui came back to her senses. Jiang Yage was about to take another picture, and she had to quickly give it to Qin Guang. When she raised her head, Qin Guang quickly put his head back on the pillow, and turned into a zombie again. Who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going? I feel like I'm trapped in a cocoon. When can I turn into a butterfly? I want to fly to the sky and see the outside world. Jean Shirui was shocked. Her condition had worsened again, and it was all her fault. Restore blood, quickly restore blood. The phone was placed in front of him again, and Qin Guang was still quietly looking at it. At this moment he was like a fragile baby, lying on the hospital bed, greedily absorbing the energy that Jiang Yage transmitted through the air. He didn't know if he could restore blood, but the temperature of his blood had risen, and the flow rate had also increased. Sister Shirui, how is it? Jiang Yage asked again. Jean Shirui nodded repeatedly. Very good, very good. He even started to talk about philosophy just now, and his ability to organize words has recovered. Then I'm going to start for real, that was just a warm-up exercise. Jiang Yage called out and then shrunk back. Jean Shirui felt that her outlook on life had received a terrible blow. This was just an appetizer? Do you usually want to overturn the heavens? In fact, Jean Shirui also overestimated Jiang Yage. Usually, although she was bold, she wasn't so shameless. Sometimes she was still quite bashful, but every time it was the little devil in her heart that rubbed the little angel on the ground, and every time she struggled, she would activate her devil mode. Of course, this was also the responsibility of Qin Guang's connivance and seduction. After all, he wasn't a saint who could control himself. Today's change was completely due to the sense of mission of saving a life, which was better than building a 7-storied pagoda. It added infinite motivation to Jiang Yage and changed from wretched to righteous. This mentality was completely new. After a while, the appetizer was over, and the main course finally appeared. As the saying goes, in the peach blossom valley, in the peach blossom stream, peach blossom butterflies dance on the peach blossom branches. Qin Lang lies drunk on the white bed, and the river tide blows on his face. Looking at this terrible scene, Jean Shirui's breathing almost stopped. This was too scary. What was wrong with this world? Although Solomon was bold in the past, it had never been like this. My God. How can you shoot like this? Can love really change a person like this? Did it completely open another layer of attributes in her body? But thinking about it carefully, it seemed that she wasn't much better, the pot calling the kettle black. From the moment when she took the initiative to pretend to be Qin Guang's girlfriend, Jean Shirui knew that she was also no longer the Jean Shirui of the past. The change happened to both of them at the same time, but they went in different directions. But their goals seemed to be the same. They both wanted to thoroughly obtain Qin Guang's heart. Perhaps the change in her body was more serious. Solomon just opened up her bold and thick-skinned temperament and deepened it, while she showed signs of blackening. Fortunately, now that the two sisters had talked it out, they wouldn't do anything shameful in the future. Jean Shirui let her imagination run wild while sending the mobile phone to Qin Guang's eyes. Qin Guang was shocked by the picture in front of him. In the mobile phone was Jiang Yage's strongest prehistoric scale, but next to her was Jean Shirui's face and ears flushed with shame and indignation. She didn't dare to look at his side face. This was his left and right hand. This was Jean Shirui and Jiang Yage. In this situation, more than 1 billion people in the country, no, billions of people in the world couldn't even dream of this, right? Yes, that's right, from now on, I am the ultimate winner in life. A tearing sound came from the quilt, and a pair of CK underwear worth 120 yuan came to an end. At this time, the message on the mobile phone came again. Jean Shirui didn't dare to look at it carefully. She directly opened it and placed it in front of Qin Guang. Strange, there was something wrong with this photo. The hair was slightly thicker than before and it was more fleshy. There was a very playful mole on the side of the thigh, and the background was also wrong. It wasn't a bathroom but a bed. She could see Cherry Maruko's bedsheet next to it. What the hell? Did I send it wrong? Someone else's? I didn't expect you to be like this, Jiang Yage. You are actually a female driver. Why did you go online to find other people's resources to learn posture? Speaking of which, the effect of this photo was quite good. It was a high-definition picture of the ancient Roman infantry, and it was a close-up. Jin Shirue saw a hint of doubt in Qin Guang's eyes. She was puzzled and she mustered up the courage to turn the mobile phone screen back to take a look. Then she almost fell to the ground. Her breathing was completely chaotic and her chest was beating like a drum. Her heart felt like it was about to jump out of her throat. Crazy, completely crazy. His whole person had gone crazy. This damn girl. When did she secretly take a photo of me? Bastard. That's right, it was yesterday. Yesterday we slept on the bed with this bedsheet. Jin Shirue covered her face. She was so shy that she couldn't help herself. She was framed. But why am I not really angry but instead secretly happy in my heart? It's over, this time it's all over. I'm going to be dragged into the ditch by this damn girl. At this time Jiang Yage poked her head out and smirked at Jin Shirue. Sister Shirue, I said it before. Be fair, be fair. I have it, you also have it. Who wants it? Sister Shirue, don't quibble. It's true. Your face is full of peach blossoms. Isn't that all because of you? I don't care. Anyway, now you are the same as me. In the future, don't laugh at me for being bold and shameless. You have also been seen by him. Qin Guang, whose brain was in a paste and didn't know what was going on, listened to the conversation between the two. How could he not understand that the photo was of Jin Shirue? A mouthful of saliva was choked into his trachea. A mouthful of old blood was blocked in his heart. He almost couldn't catch his breath. Cough, cough, cough. In this situation, even the acting skills of the cosmos couldn't hold on. Qin Guang coughed non-stop. It's working. It's working. Jiang Yage's eyes lit up like two headlights. Jin Shirue still hasn't recovered from the blow just now. She was awakened by Qin Guang. She subconsciously wanted to take the phone away. This is too shameful. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Qin Guang's mind. A person's potential is really endless. Many years later, if he could recall what he did today, he would also be proud of his amazing wit. He quickly grabbed Jin Shirue's hand. His expression instantly changed. His acting skills completely broke out in an instant. His expression was painful and full of expectation. His eyes were like a prisoner who had been locked in a dungeon for decades and saw the sun for the first time in many years. His eyes were crazy and scorching. His nose was heavy and rough. He was a little weak and confused. It was more like he was struggling in a drunken state. His eyes seemed to be nailed to the phone. It was as if taking it away for a second would make him want to die in pain. Don't. Everything was just as the old expert had said. His willpower had exploded. It seemed that he really wanted to use his willpower to overcome the shackles on his head. He wanted to break through the cage bravely and come back to life. Jin Shirue was moved to tears. Qin Guang was secretly crying. It's not easy. I actually succeeded. I actually deceived the eyes of two acting masters. Brother's acting skills were not learned in vain. On Jin Shirue's side, although she was ashamed and resentful, seeing that Qin Guang was finally about to wake up and recover, she thought that Solomon's judgment was right. This could really stimulate his potential. Let him defeat the disease. I have to hold on. I can't let myself and Solomon fail on the verge of success. Qin Guang. Come on. Wait for us. We will definitely save you. Although this is really embarrassing and makes me want to cut my own throat, if I can really save you and help you, I don't mind. I will definitely hold on. Jin Shirue clenched her teeth and held on. She felt that she had never been so brave before. Sister Shirue, don't take the phone away. I will immediately give the final blow. It's time to show my real skills. Jiang Yage made a solemn decision and then hurriedly retreated back to the bathroom. Jin Shirue continued to hold the phone and froze in place like a stone, gazing at her husband. She wanted to jump out of the window and end it all, but she comforted herself in her heart. If she succeeded in pursuing him and they really came together in the future, it didn't seem to be something that she couldn't accept, right? Even if he pressed me naked on the bed and then, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I can't think about it, I absolutely can't think about it anymore. Qin Guang returned to his lying position, but his eyes had a touch of natural fanaticism that didn't require acting. This is Jin Shirue. So reserved and introverted Jin Shirue's big scale. She put it in front of me to show me. Look at her face, red as the sun. This life of mine is worth it. A suppressed and sharp moan came from the bathroom. Jiang Ye's real skills were still brewing. How terrible would it be? What kind of world-destroying power would it have? Chapter 669. Jin Shiyue's heart was tangled and complicated. She hoped that Jiang Ye would show her real skills as soon as possible so that she could be free. After all, Qingguang, this bad guy, was staring at her photo. You bastard, don't tell me you want to see every inch of me clearly? Do you want to embarrass me to death? But she didn't know why, but Jin Shiyue was a little reluctant. She hoped that Jiang Ye would be a little slower. She couldn't tell the reason. Maybe even if she knew, she didn't want to admit it. In fact, this was good. Awkward, painful, shy, and proud. It turned out that this kind of feeling was so unique. No wonder Solomon had this kind of hobby. When a person's shyness reached the extreme, would it really break through a certain boundary in his heart? Could it be that I'm hiding a little devil like Solomon in my bones? Fortunately, this guy was in a silly state now. Maybe he didn't know that he was looking at my photo, right? Thinking of this, Jin Shiyue's feelings in her heart became more complicated. There was a kind of pleasure of secretly doing bad things, but there was also such a lingering regret. Poor Jin Shiyue, she didn't know that Qingguang was completely awake at this time and knew everything. She couldn't say whether it was lucky or unlucky. If she knew that Qingguang knew, maybe she wouldn't have persisted at all. It was also because she didn't know that Qingguang knew that she had the courage to put her most private side in front of Qingguang without reservation. It was a mouthful, but it was the truth. On the other hand, Qingguang quietly watched as if he was intoxicated. Perhaps at this moment he no longer needed any acting skills, since he looked like a natural fool at this moment. Finally, about 5 or 6 minutes later, Jiang Ye's side was finished. A new storm had appeared. What appeared on the mobile phone was a simple dynamic video. This time Jiang Ye had even upgraded her carrier. In order to display her true skills without holding back, Jiang Ye was going all out. Jin Shiyue reluctantly took back her phone and couldn't help but look at the photo on it. She was in a daze for more than 10 seconds before she slowly came back to her senses. Then, with even more reluctance, she shrunk the photo and clicked on the animated video sent by Jiang Ye. The content was really indescribable. When Jin Shiyue saw it, she almost wanted to throw her phone away and call the police. Jiang Ye didn't move for a long time. She was probably paralyzed in the washroom. Qingguang was burning with anxiety. Hurry up. This is your best friend who grew up with you. Why are you staring at her in a daze? What else can you do? Hurry up and give it to me. Finally, Jin Shiyue came back to her senses. She trembled as she handed the phone to Qingguang. Then, with a shake of her fingers, she clicked on the video. It was the largest in history, unprecedented. It had sound and it could move. How terrifying, how shocking, and how many good comments were there. If it was posted on a certain farming science website, there would definitely be a lot of spam below. The original poster is a good person. A good person lives in peace. 1024. It was impossible for anyone to say that this work had bad intentions. Of course this was impossible. This was Qingguang's exclusive memory. No one could be envious of it. This was Jiang Ye. She had 80 million Weibo fans. Hundreds of thousands of people would care about her even if she sneezed. She would have millions or even tens of millions of fans flocking to any movie or drama she acted in. Her new album could easily break through millions of sales online. The left hand of her right hand, Jiang Ye. She actually, forget it. Stop showing off. Hurry up and focus. Don't complain. Feel it with your heart. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. He just watched quietly, and the perplexed expression on his face had long disappeared. His eyes were sparkling and filled with the light of wisdom. This was the most basic wisdom of human reproduction, and anyone who understood it would understand it. The video was very short. It was only 10 seconds. But these 10 seconds concentrated the most precious essence of human beings. The strongest pile driver in history seemed to be filled with oil. It began to rumble and tremble, letting out a silent roar. I want the sky to not cover my eyes anymore. I want this quilt and, no. The quilt can't explode. Qingguang began to cough violently. Jin Shiyue quickly got up and put the phone in her trouser pocket. She patted his back. Okay. You're finally okay. It's good that you've returned to your senses. All the embarrassment and shame just now disappeared from Jin Shiyue's mind in an instant. It was as if nothing in this world was more important than Qingguang returning to normal. Jiang Ye finally got dressed. She rushed out of the bathroom and went to the other side of Qingguang. She stretched out her hand and gently stroked his chest from the front. Be good. I'll listen to me. It's good that you've returned to your senses. It's good that you've returned to your senses. Chen Guang's feelings at this moment were really indescribable. The pile driver was already in a state of explosion, but he was being coaxed by the two girls as if he was a naughty little brother. He knew everything, but he had to pretend that he had just woken up from his daze. Life might really be a play. Sometimes, it was much more difficult to put on a good show than to act in a movie. Perhaps God still felt that he was not difficult enough and decided to add more fuel to the fire. At this moment, the nurse pushed the door open and saw Chen Guang sitting on the bed. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage patted him on the left and right, one on the front and one on the back. She was anxious. "What are you doing? What are you doing? This is a patient. Don't mess around, okay?" "Really? I'm a fan of both of you. Can you give me your autograph?" "Don't be angry." When Mr. Chen was first admitted to the hospital, the injury on his head was really scary. "I'm just afraid that his condition will worsen." Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were too embarrassed to tell the nurse what they were doing with Chen Guang just now. They blushed and stuttered, not knowing what to do. Fortunately, the nurse quickly took out a pen and paper from her pocket. The two of them calmed down a little when they borrowed the autograph. However, when they heard from the nurse that Chen Guang was seriously injured, they felt even more heartbroken. The nurse pressed Chen Guang down and changed the dressing on his head. She asked, "Mr. Chen, are you feeling better?" Chen Guang smiled faintly, appearing very cultured. Then, he silently bent his knees and used his knees to push the blanket up high to cover his tent of shame. "Thank you, Miss Nurse. I'm much better. My whole spirit has been lifted." Seeing that he really said a clear sentence, Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage clenched their hands and looked at him excitedly. "Thank God it really worked." "Alright, I don't know what happened just now. In a daze it seems like a lot of things happened but I just can't remember them." Chen Guang deliberately made a very painful expression and subconsciously wanted to rub his head. The beautiful nurse slapped his palm. "Why are you touching? Aren't you afraid that your wound will split open? You'd better behave yourself." "Oh, okay." Chen Guang shrank back into the blanket, feeling wronged. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage looked at him from the side. Seeing that he really didn't remember anything, Jiang Yage didn't have any special feelings. To her, this was as common as eating and drinking. However, Jin Shiyue felt exceptionally regretful. "Alright, where's my phone?" Chen Guang turned his head and looked around. Jin Shiyue took out her phone shyly. She hadn't had the time to delete the photo just now. However, Chen Guang took the phone anxiously. Why did it go to Shiyue's place?" "Sai, let's take a look at Weibo. We were supposed to be at the press conference, but it was postponed because of me. I'm guessing that the internet is full of people scolding me. Big bearded uncle thinks too highly of me. Am I not just a second male lead? There's no need to postpone the whole press conference just because of me. No, I feel like I'm going to be flamed badly. I have to go online and see what's going on." Seeing that he was talking about business again, Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were completely sure that he really didn't remember anything. Jiang Yage hurriedly waved her hand and wanted to snatch the phone back. "It's fine. Don't look at it. It doesn't matter. People are afraid of being famous as pigs are afraid of being fat. How can you control the flaming words on the internet? Don't look at it. Just do your own thing." Chen Guang hid the phone under the blanket. Actually, he had an ulterior motive. He just didn't want them to delete the old man's real stuff. "It's not like today is the first time you've met me. Don't you know how big of a heart I have? What can a mere flaming word do? I myself am the #1 flaming word in the pugilistic world, alright?" Actually, his situation was quite awkward and delicate. How could the strongest pile driver in history be stopped just because he said so? It was still standing strong now. However, on the surface he had to act like a proper person. However, he held on. If it wasn't for the fact that the Popcorn 5 Plus almost smashed into the pile driver in the process of hiding the phone, he would have almost fooled himself. It's better if you don't look at Weibo. Really, it's quite boring. The people on the internet are all spouting nonsense. They don't understand you, so they talk nonsense on the internet all day long. However, real works are more useful than anything else. No matter what, this time we will definitely help you come up with a good piece of work." Jin Shiyue also sat down and comforted him gently. Seeing how nervous the two of them were, Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. F***CK, it can't be that I'm really being scolded badly, right? This was not good news at all. I came to Beijing for fame and it has to be a good reputation. Otherwise, how can I dig out faith from other people's brains? If everyone hates me, who will worship me? He started to panic, but he refused to admit defeat. He quietly returned the phone to the desktop, took it out, opened Weibo and smiled amiably. Sai, you guys have underestimated me. The two of you have really underestimated me. Now I'll let you guys see my big heart. I've seen many storms and waves. I was scolded badly a few days ago, but didn't I pull through? How can such a small matter be? F***ck, these bastards. The nurse panicked again. I told you not to move, the wound is going to explode. Qin Guang pointed at the phone with a trembling finger. He was extremely angry. You can't blame me for this. These bastards are too King vicious with their words. Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage looked at each other. Sai, I told you not to look at it. What can I do if I can't persuade you? What happened to your big heart? Did I let you eat it? Chapter 670. Speaking of the movie Women, the two of them were quite embarrassed. According to Big Beard Deng's original idea, Qin Guang was indeed the second male lead and was not that important. But during this period of time, Jin Shirui and Jiang Yiling had blindly changed the script and added a lot of scenes for Qin Guang, but the more they changed, the better it was. Jin Shirui originally only had a small cameo, but she really changed nearly 10 minutes of scenes for herself. The first male lead's first love, with a passionate scene. It was originally a taboo for an actor to change the script, but the two women's own film company was also one of the investors of the film, so their attitude could not be ignored. The two of them were also friends with Big Beard Deng. Now, Big Beard Deng attached great importance to the two's opinions. After reading the script, he was shocked and had an explosion of inspiration. He simply cooperated with the scriptwriter and made a series of changes. The changes were even more explosive than Jin Shirui and Jiang Yiling's changes. Qin Guang, the second male lead, became the first male lead. This kind of thing was strange, but it was really not rare in the film and television industry. At least this was a change at the level of the script. It was said that there was once a male artist who finished all his scenes under the contract of the first male lead. He was waiting for the reputation and the box office to double. After waiting for a year for the movie to be released, he found out that he was forced to become the second male lead by the post-production editing. The name of the movie was changed from Escorted to Heaven to Blind Tomb. That was really tragic. In a good circle, the senior became the green leaves of the young fresh meat and was set off as old cured meat. The supposed male lead became a stepping stone for others to step on his head. He was so angry that he vomited blood and did not have a place to reason with. In contrast, the matter of Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage changing the script was not a problem at all. Therefore, after the new version of the script was released, Qin Guang became the first male lead without even knowing it himself. At first, Big Beard Deng was worried that this would cause too much pressure on Qin Guang and did not know if he would be willing to take it. Big Beard was actually quite worried about whether his acting skills could hold up. He had planned to call Qin Guang himself to ask. But the investors, Grace Song and Jin Shirui, patted their chests loudly. Qin Guang sighed, "We'll handle it, he'll definitely take it." As for his acting, what was there to be afraid of? Aren't you Big Beard Deng here? Big Beard, you have to be confident. You are the Big Beard Deng Xiaojing, who is the best at training actors. Although there were many twists and turns during the filming of Tears Never End for Rivers and Mountains, didn't he perform well in the end? Besides, how many little fresh meats really had acting skills? Even if Qin Guang wasn't good enough, based on his performance in Tears Never End for Rivers and Mountains, not many male idols could catch up to him, right? At most, there would be a few more NGs, the shooting time would be prolonged, and the shooting cost would be raised. It didn't matter, they could afford to lose money. Big Beard Deng was helpless because of these two little empresses. In addition, he also liked the new script, so the matter was quietly settled. It was not until the signing ceremony and press conference was about to be held in the next 2 days that it was announced to create momentum. The momentum was created and the situation was still under control. But today, or perhaps at this time because Qin Guang suddenly couldn't be present, the time of the press conference was suddenly changed and it suddenly exploded. Before, Qin Guang's injury was a state secret. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Big Beard Deng learned the news and hurriedly announced to the public that the press conference would be postponed. It was too late and too sudden. Now the public opinion completely exploded. He was not a professional actor. No, perhaps he could not even be considered a professional artist. He was just a fresh internet celebrity who had never learned how to perform and had never had more than 30 seconds of screen time. However, he had debuted as the male lead of a major production directed by a famous director like Big Beard Deng. What right did he have? Even if you have connections, you can't mess around like this. Do you know how to act in a movie? Even if you acted well in Tears for a Country's Rivers Will Run Dry before, do you understand how much distance there is between a minor character without any lines and the male lead? Even if you have money to squander, You should at least act in a small budget, or even go to the Chinese Academy of Drama or Beijing Film Academy to further your studies. You're playing so big, normal people's emotions and physiology won't be able to accept it, okay? Do you want us to walk into the cinema standing and crawl out vomiting? This was the first hot topic. It was very controversial and could cause public opinion to rise to the sky in minutes. Not to mention ordinary fans and film critics, even people in the industry couldn't stand it anymore. They felt that Big Beard Deng had gone crazy. Jean Shirua had also gone crazy. In order to support her boyfriend, she really had no bottom line. Needless to say, there were even fans who started spontaneously boycotting Chen Guang and the movie on Weibo. His right-hand man's fans, who had just recovered from Jean Shirua's confession, were also furious. They felt that this shameful man was going to destroy their idol. For a famous actor to star in a bad movie that was completely destroyed at the box office was definitely a heavy blow to his or her career. For example, some domestic female celebrities were even labeled as the queen of bad movies after appearing in many bad movies. Now, only die-hard fans who didn't know the truth or were numb to the truth would support their movies. Even the Oscar winner Nicolas Cage ruined his or her reputation because he took on bad movies without restraint. Although his right-hand man was considered a veteran actor in the industry, his experience was far from Nicolas Cage's. Even an Oscar-winning actor could get away with it, so his right-hand man wasn't in a good situation either. Not only was Chen Guang a burden to their goddess in life, he even extended his claws to their goddess's career. This was intolerable. Curse this shameless B** star to death. Even if you're an almighty Superman, even if you're very cool in other aspects, acting in movies is completely different from what you did in the past, okay? Don't insult the performing arts. Those who act well are called performing artists. Those who don't have acting skills can barely be a small celebrity. At the very least, they can be called a little fresh meat in the entertainment circle. What are you? You're just an internet celebrity and you've only been famous for a few months. Letting someone like you act in Big Beard Deng's blockbuster and be the male lead? You're insulting the Chinese film industry just because you have money and connections. Insulting all movie fans. Insulting all the people in the film industry. It had already been like this on the internet for the past 2 days, but Jean Shirua and Jiang Mian had secretly done it behind Chen Guang's back. This situation was also caused by the two women's overplay. Coupled with the fact that they stood him up at the press conference tonight, the situation had completely changed. The other main producers had already released the news on their Weibo. Jean Shirua and Jiang Yage had also returned to the country early in the morning to help promote the movie. But here came the problem. Although Big Beard Deng's announcement did not explain the reason for the delay, there were no updates on Chen Guang's Weibo for the past 2 days. The matter was self-evident. Brother Almighty was acting cool, Brother Almighty was acting like a big shot. He wasn't coming today. So the agreed time was changed. The entire production crew is waiting for you, and you actually dare to play around? Everyone else had spared no effort to help promote the movie on their social media, but you, the male lead who had appeared out of nowhere, didn't say anything at all? Why are you so arrogant? So the current situation on the internet was like the second power of an explosion. Those vicious words could even make Chen Guang angry. Even with his thick skin, he could not help but roll his eyes. It was too numerous to list. Calm down, calm down. You've just been injured, you can't be so emotional. The nurse was anxious. Chen Guang put his phone in front of her. You can't blame me for this. Look at what these scumbags are saying. The nurse glanced at it. Damn it. What a beast. What? I didn't do it on purpose. As she spoke, it turned out that she could not control the strength of her bandaged hand due to her emotional outburst. Chen Guang grinned. It's fine, it's fine. The pain on my head is not as bad as the bitterness in my heart. He quietly stuffed his phone under the blanket and let the nurse adjust his bandage. Then he lay down silently and yawned. Sigh, he was seriously injured. Half of it was acting and the other half was real. In the past, it did not matter if he was scolded by others because he knew that others were stupid and he could turn the tables and slap them in the face. But this time what these people said made sense. He almost believed it himself. If it wasn't for the fact that he had already mastered the most world-class acting skills in history in the world in a cup, and that his acting skills were still a burden, he probably would have just given up. He was not afraid of those who did not know the ropes, but he was afraid of being scolded by those who knew the ropes. It was really painful. Seeing him like this, Jean Shirua and Jiang Yage looked at each other. They wanted to comfort him, but the two women felt a little regretful. At that time, they were hot-headed and only wanted to add scenes for themselves and him, but they did not consider the difficulties it would be for him. But now the situation was difficult to back down. The publicity had already been hyped up on the internet, and the cast list had already been confirmed. It was impossible to retreat now. Otherwise, Qin Guang would only end up with the reputation of being a coward, and the situation would be worse than it was now. There was only one way to turn the tables, and that was if he could really bring out his acting skills at the speed of light under the guidance of Big Beard Deng and conquer everyone with his indisputable performance. But thinking of the encounter in Wujing Film and Television City that afternoon, the two of them really had no confidence in their hearts. Big Beard's most trusted assistant, Yang Shi, had almost collapsed because of him. The whole crew dragged on for 2 or 3 hours before they finally waited for his flash of inspiration to finish shooting a set of 30-second scenes. In the new film, he had become the male lead from a small role. The scenes were shot throughout the whole scene and there were a lot of dialogue lines. When they thought about how to train Qin Guang under that workload, the two women felt despair for Big Beard Deng and Yang Shi. Want to give a perfect performance? Difficult as climbing to the sky. It seemed that this time they really played too big? Why did I become the male lead? The pressure is so great. Qin Guang's eyes were dull as he muttered to himself. His voice was getting lower and lower and he gradually seemed to fall asleep. The two women stared at each other, not knowing how to enlighten him. About a few minutes later, Qin Guang, who was still curled up, snored like thunder as if he was asleep. Chapter 671. You two don't have to worry too much. He might have just woken up and his mental state is not very stable yet. He was also stimulated and overreacted, so he's a little sleepy. In medicine we call this psi. Anyway, he's sleepy. But he'll definitely be fine once he wakes up. I've been watching the almighty Superman Qin Guang's Weibo. Although I don't follow him, many of my friends are his fans and repost his Weibo every day. He's a very strong person. Why don't you two rest first? We'll keep an eye on him. There won't be a problem. We're professionals. The nurse comforted them. The two girls helplessly nodded their heads. If they continued to stay here, they had no idea when Qin Guang would wake up. At this moment, Big Beard Deng was probably so anxious that he wanted to explode. It was said that many people in the main production team had some opinions about this, and the male lead that was originally supposed to be the male lead had now become the second lead. They couldn't continue to dawdle here. They had to go and make a statement. But they asked themselves if they really regretted it. They didn't think so. Who was Qin Guang? He was the man that we liked. We invested in the movie and he was willing to act. Why didn't we give him more scenes? How could we face our own hearts? Besides, Big Beard was also very concerned about him. Shouldn't we all take the blame? It can't all be ours, right? As for the box office and reputation, well, don't care about those details. Although a bad movie was a heavy blow, the two of us could still bear it. If we had to regret, we should only regret that things were so rushed. After that, the specialist came in once more and chatted with Qin Guang for a long time. The specialist was shocked by Qin Guang's sudden illness and recovery. He even wanted to send Qin Guang for a CT scan, but he was rejected by Qin Guang. The old man didn't have time to waste with you. You should leave quickly. I'm too busy. When everyone in the ward finally left, Qin Guang, who was pretending to sleep, suddenly opened his eyes. A flash of hatred flashed in his eyes. Evil haters. Just you wait. I'm no longer who I used to be. So what if I'm the male lead? I cheated, okay. The old man was the master of the heavenly holy grail, the possessor of the protagonist's fate. No matter what I do, I have to reach the top in one step. I can't be like other people who have to play small roles for 10 years before getting lines, right? Although it was a bit exaggerated to have Uncle Big Beard as the male lead, and even I found it hard to believe I was the best actor in the world so I could do well, right? Do you have to ridicule me like this? The worse you curse at me today, the more you'll kneel to the world's best actor tomorrow. Alright, I've already made my grand aspiration. The most important thing to do is to be down to earth and do things according to my priorities. First, please allow me to open my phone and open WeChat. After a long time, a rustling sound came from the intensive care unit, and the tissues on the bedside table were looted. His eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. No matter what, today was still quite a blissful day. At this moment, the main creative team of women was indeed in an uproar. Many of them had specially taken time out of their time to come to Yanjing for this press conference. Now that the time had been changed, the second male lead, the third male lead, and the second female lead were the most affected. In this day and age, which popular artists' schedule wasn't full every day. Today they would attend a press conference in Yanjing, tomorrow they would go to the sea to record a reality show, and the day after that they would be shooting a TV series in South Korea. The main characters in Deng Xiaojiang's films were all famous in the country, and none of them were below the A-list level. Their daily schedule was calculated as hundreds of thousands of yuan. Today's matters were pushed to tomorrow, and tomorrow's matters had to be pushed back again. Fortunately, the director of the film was Deng Xiaojiang, and he could barely control the situation after such a mess. If it were a new director, he would probably be crying. He had high requirements for Deng Xiaojiang's film, especially the strictest rule of not allowing him to make a scene. The so-called making a scene meant that they had to shoot his film, and at the same time they could not take on other films. According to Deng Xiaojiang's strict requirements, every actor had to bring out their best performance when they were acting in a film. Today you played a bitter role in my film, and tomorrow, you played a careless optimist in someone else's film. Different films required different roles, and this definitely wouldn't work. This would have to be a cameo. To act in my film, you had to put in all your heart and soul to be able to bring out a real good show. Everyone understood this. Because of Deng Xiaojiang's face and reputation, they had been mentally prepared when they had taken on the film. But this time, some of the things that Deng Xiaojiang and Jin Jiang had done might have been a bit too much. For example, the second male lead, Ren Chong, was also a famous box office star in the country. Back then he was the first male lead, but later on he became the second male lead and he tolerated it. Because you are Deng Xiaojiang and because that person is Jin Shiyue's boyfriend, I gave in to you. I admit that you have high standards here, but you insist on pulling a person who has no acting experience to be the first male lead. I admit that. When the time comes, the film might fail. I'm the new best actor, and the second film I'm going to shoot is a lousy film. You have strict requirements for me, but you don't have any requirements for Chen Guang, and for your sake, I admit it. But today I rejected 3 jobs and came here to attend the press conference, and you suddenly told me that it was changed to tomorrow. Then what about the job I promised tomorrow? I really can't take it anymore. Even a clay bodhisattva has a temper, and you guys are really too much. Director Deng, it's really not that I, Ren Chong, want to cause trouble on purpose, but he really went too far. Tell me, look, what do you call this? Let's not talk about senior or not. We agreed on a time, but he said he wouldn't come, and he didn't even give us an explanation. What right does he have to do this? Isn't this too unprofessional? Look, there are more than 10 people sitting here doing nothing just because of him. You can't be like this. Ren Chong stood in front of Big Beard Deng, clapping his hands and complaining. Deng Xiaojiang was also quite embarrassed. Little Ren, calm down. His situation is special and I can't explain it in a short time, but he really has a reason. If there's a reason, then say it earlier. At the very least he should have said it so that we can all feel better. We're all working together, so what's with his attitude? He changed his mind at the last minute, and he didn't give us an explanation. We're all gathered here today, so I won't say it and Yueling won't say it either. This isn't fair to Brother Zhou. Let's just stay here and play cards for the rest of the day? Ren Chong pulled the second female lead, Zhao Yueling, and the third male lead, Zhou Ya, off their horses. Zhao Yueling was also a popular artist who debuted a few years ago, and was Ren Chong's junior in the same company. Although she wasn't as popular as Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage in the country, she could still be considered an A-list female star. As for Zhou Ya, he was an old acquaintance. He had worked with Deng Xiaojiang on the previous film, Tears Never End, and had even given Qin Guang 80,000 yuan for free. Zhou Ya hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Little Ren, don't get too worked up. It's just filming and everything doesn't go smoothly. It's not easy for Director Deng either. I know you have a program to record tomorrow, and after the press conference tomorrow morning, you can immediately fly to Nanjing. Deng Xiaojiang was getting on in years and he felt quite wronged. If he wasn't in the wrong and Ren Chong dared to talk to him like this, he would have slammed the table and flown into a rage. Sigh, Qin Guang, you little rascal, you've caused me trouble. Zhao Yueling rolled her eyes. Brother Zhou, it's easy for you to say. Brother Ren's program starts at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and the earliest flight to Nanjing will arrive at 1 p.m. There's only half an hour and you can't even catch your breath. Isn't this tormenting? I'm even worse off. I was supposed to attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony for Baoda Jewelry at Denghai tomorrow morning, but now it's all over. It's not that Brother Ren and I are being petty, but Director Deng, you're too indulgent with Chen Guang. I really don't understand it. If he were an actor from an acting school it would be fine, but we're just afraid that he'll ruin your reputation, Director Deng. This time, Zhou Ya had no way of smoothing things over. As someone who had worked with Chen Guang once, even if he had lost 80,000 yuan, Zhou Ya still had a lot of say in Chen Guang's acting skills. Back at Wujing Film City, a large group of people had spent the entire afternoon there. Now that Chen Guang's scenes were so heavy, Zhou Ya couldn't help but feel flustered in his heart. In the new script, he had quite a few scenes with Chen Guang, and he was clearly the one who should be complaining the most. Deng Xiaogang also felt a little regretful that things had turned out this way. Why was I so thoughtless at that time? Jiang Ye's revised script was pretty good. Jin Shiyue wanted Chen Guang to have a higher starting point for his debut. She also felt that Chen Guang was a promising talent, but it was a little too much to push him to be the male lead. Why did I agree to it at that time? Why did I change the script in that direction? I'm not possessed, am I? But now that he was changing it back, Deng Xiaogang really couldn't bear to part with such a good script. If he couldn't make a movie that he was most satisfied with, he would rather not do it. Actually, the best choice now was to change the actor and get a veteran actor to play the male lead. But this was also impossible. One of the investors' right-hand man would never agree to it. The two passionate scenes that had a great impact on the movie's plot could not be filmed, but the premise of the new script was built on these two rare passionate scenes. When the movie was finished, the overall quality of the movie aside, just the two rare scenes of Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye rolling in the sheets, even if it was not completely exposed, would definitely be a gimmick that could pull in the box office. It would also be a strong boost to the plot. Deng Xiaogang would rather be beaten to death than to give up on it. Serving the second or third generation superstars in a movie was so troublesome. He had to pay attention to it and he had to pay attention to it. But only Deng Xiaogang, the executive director cum producer, understood these things, but he couldn't say it out loud. Although everyone could guess it, Big Beard couldn't tell them clearly that he didn't have the final say in the movie. It was the two little girls who had the final say. It would be embarrassing, and it would also affect his prestige in the production team in the circle. Other than that, I know the reason for changing the time of today's press conference, but I can't say it. Now, the news of their fall was directly informed by the Secretariat of the Ministry of National Defense, and they even repeatedly said that it was top secret. You don't know how painful it was for me at that time. Other than that, the press conference could not be held today not only because of Chen Guang, but also because the female lead, Jiang Ye, had gone to the hospital to visit someone. Since the male lead and the female lead could not come, the press conference could not be held. Unfortunately, these things could not be said. My great-nephew, where did you go to reach the heavens? Poor Big Beard Deng, he didn't even know that Chen Guang was now a deputy minister. If he knew that his male lead was a deputy minister, he was afraid that he would faint. In a sense, Big Beard Deng could be considered to be unprecedented. He should be the first director in history to rope in such a high-ranking official to act in a movie. The name of this department was even called the General Administration of Guangdong, which was especially terrifying. The conference room was noisy, and Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye finally arrived. The fire of the public finally found a place to vent. Although it was not good to say anything harsh to these two people, they couldn't help complaining. Sister Jean, you should control your man. How can he be like this? Sister Song, speak for everyone. Is it right for Chen Guang? Sister Song, what do you think people are saying on the internet? Why don't we change the male lead? He can't act, he really can't. How about we find another script for him next time? Shoot something more youthful and artistic. Although you two are young, you are famous actors in our circle. Chen Guang is, little fresh meat. Chen Guang is at most a little fresh meat. I'm not afraid of offending people. It's a compliment to say that he is a little fresh meat. Other little fresh meat have shot music videos. What has he done? If Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye were ordinary artists, people would naturally not complain to them. However, there's no need to mention the two's status in the industry. They're also movie investors, and everyone knows that Chen Guang was pushed up by the two of them. So if anyone wanted to pull Chen Guang down, they could only start with the two of them. In the past 2 days, the comments on the internet had been getting worse and worse. People were afraid that the film would be ruined, so they all came up to say one after another in the name of the good of the film. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye were usually influential figures wherever they went. But this time, like Deng Xiaogang, they knew that they were in the wrong. In the face of the voices of the public, they could only brace themselves to bear it. Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang, the three middle-level leaders of Qingguang Agency, hid in the corner of the conference room and shivered. In fact, the three of them had been baptized by the storm before. It was true that not many people cursed in front of them, but they couldn't stand the ridicule that came one after another. Chen Guang's appearance was too sudden. From an internet celebrity who relied on hype, he suddenly became the male lead of an A-list blockbuster. Not to mention whether it would make people jealous, it was simply a joke in the eyes of others. They didn't have a chance to complain about Chen Guang in front of him, so they complained in front of his employees. Until now, the three of them felt that their faces were full of the smell of other people's saliva. This group of B** stars. Fang Tianyu gritted his teeth. This is 2F* king bullying. How can anyone say that about Director Chen? That guy just said that Director Chen would be thankful if he could act as a poker face. Yu Hong also kept a straight face. Some people said that Director Chen can't even remember his lines. Actually, I think what they said is quite reasonable. Lu Xiaoyang was different from the other two. As a former senior entertainment reporter and pioneer paparazzi, he knew more about the tricks of the entertainment industry. Actually, I don't understand why Director Deng would let Director Chen play the male lead. This is a bit too much. Right now, our company's task is to package Director Chen. If I were to come up with a packaging plan, we should let Director Chen take one step at a time and start from a supporting role. It's not that he's never qualified to play the lead role, but when it comes to acting, he really hasn't shown any convincing results. Lu Xiaoyang analyzed logically. Since ancient times, there has been a master in every profession. Don't think that acting is easy. Acting is not something that can be done in a day. Our Director Chen doesn't look like a genius who was born with knowledge. After all, he has a stain on his record. Stain? Yu Hong didn't understand. I went to watch Country previously. Didn't he act quite well? Lu Xiaoyang rolled his eyes. Old you don't know this. That set of 30 seconds of scenes, there were dozens of NGs. They filmed for an entire afternoon. I have a friend who was on the set as an extra. He said that he almost died from the heat because he was wearing armor on such a hot day. This is what he said. Ordinary actors' acting skills are divided into soy sauce level, beginner level, amateur level, professional level, master level, and best actor level. What level is our Director Chen at? Fang Tianyu asked in a low voice. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath. In my friend's words, he is a disaster level, the kind that can spoil an entire pot of soup. A disaster level male lead? Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu looked at Deng Xiaojiang sympathetically. They didn't know why, but even as Qin Guang's employees, they started to sympathize with Deng Xiaojiang, the famous director. Deng Xiaojiang was really stubborn to use a useless male lead for the entire process. However, this was definitely not good news for Qin Guang's agency. Right now, Qin Guang's image and reputation on the internet might be controversial, but he has never messed up anything that he's participated in. He was a world champion in darts. He was the undisputed king of the underground racing world when it came to car racing. He was a godlike existence. He was so good at playing Dota that he could take on the world alone. He had never messed up when it came to playing the piano. If Director Chen's first movie ended in a bad movie, it would be a devastating blow to his personal image and reputation. Qin Guang's agency might even suffer a heavy blow. How about we persuade Director Chen? Fang Tianyu asked tentatively. Yu Hong nodded. Buttface, you can persuade him. He will listen to you. Lu Xiaoyang shook his head. I am suffering from a disease that will kill me if I make a phone call. Save it. No one can change his mind once he has made a decision. Think about what happened to Bajou. Yu Hong, on the other hand, saw through it. What we can do is to think of a way to help him settle this matter. Lu Xiaoyang nodded. Now that things have come to this, it looks like I have to show my true abilities. I'll turn black into white. When the movie comes out, I will try my best to find a bright spot for him. Even if he messes up, I will exaggerate it. I don't know how many people will be fooled by me. In any case, when the time comes, we will be able to cover the sky and cover the earth with spear inscriptions. We will definitely be able to fool some people. We need a navy in the Pacific Ocean. Fang Tianyu nodded. The three of them sighed at the same time. Working for Director Chen was really tiring. It was a night of arguments and no words. While it was noisy outside, Qin Guang enjoyed a rare moment of peace. However, he ran into some trouble the next morning. He wanted to leave the hospital, but the sanatorium wouldn't let him. Fortunately, he was very good at running away now, so he rushed out of the dark and ran away as fast as he could. The old expert and a group of people chased after him. Director Chen, come back. Come back. Qin Guang waved his hand from afar. No. I have something important to do. The people of my country need me. When Qin Guang was far away, the old expert's assistant asked, Actually, I think Director Chen is recovering quite well. The old expert shook his head. Actually, my son is a fan of Deng Xiaojiang. Ha! I should have tied him up, the old expert said. It was all thanks to Xin Yuliang that the online taxi booking service was getting better and better. It didn't even take 20 minutes for Qin Guang to leave the nursing home for the Shidun Hotel, where the press conference was held. When he got on the car, the driver kept looking at his head, which made him feel uncomfortable. The bandage that he had wrapped around his head had been shaken off due to his strenuous movements. It looked a little abnormal. Chen Guang didn't want to talk to this guy at first, but halfway through the car he started to talk in a foreign language. That's right, it was Arabic. Chen Guang touched his head silently. Dude, I only wrapped my head with a bandage, but I'm not Arabic. Thank you. He couldn't help but reply in Arabic, and this time the driver couldn't stop himself from driving. This was how mystical Beijing was. Even taxi drivers could comment on the country's affairs, as if they were pillars of the country as long as they sat in the leather chair. Nowadays, taxi drivers had also kept up with the times. This man was actually a graduate from the Arabic department of the Beijing Foreign Language School, and he had really treated Chen Guang as an international friend and started to chat with him. Chen Guang felt that this guy must be using him to practice his spoken English. I've seen your teacher before. It's that half-baked Professor Liu. His skills are bad and his character is bad. If you learn from him, it's no wonder you're doing so badly after you graduated. Forget it. Since I have nothing to do anyway, I'll just chat with you. I'll just treat it as helping my peers. They were chatting happily along the way, but Chen Guang heard this sentence when he was about to get off the car. Muhammad, do you know? Recently there's a very funny person in our country. He looks a little like you. He has never acted before, but he actually wants to act in a movie. Do you think there's something wrong with the rich nowadays? If they burn their money, they can at least smell it. Letting someone who doesn't know how to act in a movie to act in a blockbuster, isn't that throwing hundreds of millions of investment into the water? Rich people nowadays, TSK. Muhammad said. Serves you right for having to use the internet for your entire life. I was going to introduce you to Brother Bai Hua, but now you should just stay where you are. Chapter 672. Today's press conference was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. and end at around 11 a.m., but the second male lead, Ren Chong, and the second female lead, Zhao Yueling, arrived at 9 a.m. Of course, they didn't come so early because they were really diligent. There was another person with them, the general manager of Qianda Film and Television, Kong Qing. Of course, they had their own reasons for bringing Kong Qing along. There were two investors, 4 women. Jin Jiang and Jin Huan's Huan Entertainment accounted for 30%, and Qianda Film and Television, a subsidiary of Qianda Entertainment, accounted for 70%. Yesterday, Ren Chong couldn't get Big Beard Deng to get rid of Chen Guang, so he made up his mind. After disbanding at night, he found his old friend Kong Qing and discussed it with him. In the end, both sides hit it off. Kong Qing was a little uncertain about this matter and wanted to get rid of Chen Guang for a long time, but he was afraid of Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage. Big Beard had always been tough when it came to making movies, and Big Beard also had some shares in Qianda Film and Television, so Kong Qing didn't bring it up. After listening to Ren Chong's analysis last night, he really felt that he couldn't let it go on like this. Otherwise, the film would really be a mess and the huge investment would go down the drain. In the end, the one who would suffer would be him, the general manager of Qianda Film and Television. At the very least, there was no need to give Chen Guang such an important role. He could either change his role and let Ren Chong play the male lead, or change the script back to the previous version with Ren Chong still the male lead. It was a big production with hundreds of millions of investment, and it was too childish to let an inexperienced person play the male lead. Since Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage were so tough that Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling didn't have the final say, then as a major investor with 70% of the investment, I should have the final say, right? Even if I might offend Big Beard and his right-hand man, there are no eternal enemies in the business world. Big Beard, don't be angry. You are also a shareholder of Qianda Films. If we can get our money back, you will also have a part in it. Just don't mess around with others. Qianda Films and Qianda Cinemas, the largest cinema chain in the country, were both under Qianda Entertainment. In the domestic film industry, their words carried enormous weight, and they weren't something that could be casually stepped on. If you guys want to promote Chen Guang, we won't object. But this time, let's discuss it carefully and come up with a compromise plan. At most, we'll go back and put together a slightly smaller film. Our cinema chain will push it hard. Today, if you guys take a step back, we'll take 2 steps back later. Everyone's face will be fine, and the friendship between friends can still be preserved. Kong Qing decided to personally talk to Big Beard Deng and his right-hand man before the final list of the leading actors was announced at the press conference. Otherwise, he would have to wait for the press conference to start and settle the matter before talking about it. Firstly, it would be a joke, and secondly, it would have a negative impact on the movie's promotion. So, of course, the leading actor today was not Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling but Kong Qing. Deng Xiaojiang didn't expect that Kong Qing would mention it. As a person who also didn't have much confidence, he actually felt a little guilty in the face of Kong Qing's doubts. Old Dang, we've known each other for so many years. You know me very well and I know you very well. When have I ever made things difficult for you? I'm really doing this for everyone's sake. Why don't you discuss it with the other two in Qingguang again? We don't have to make things so big at once. We have to be responsible for the shareholders. Kong Qing pulled Big Beard to the side and said earnestly, let's talk about friendship first, then business. Big Beard sighed and wanted to tell him his difficulties. Old Kong, you know me. My principle has always been to make high-quality films. That's it. Since you want to make high-quality films, you can't let a hothead play the leading actor, right? Kong Qing quickly followed. Big Beard was also a little shaken. I have thought about this problem, but Jiang Yage said that if it wasn't for Qingguang, we wouldn't even get to hold hands, let alone the passionate scene in the new script. Then, the new script that I worked so hard to write would be completely ruined. Jin Shirui is in the same situation. To put it bluntly, I think this script is good. At the same time, it's tailor-made for Jiang Yage, Jin Shirui, and Qingguang. If it wasn't for their friendship, no one else would be able to play the role. Try to discuss it with Jiang Yage? Isn't it just a passionate scene? It's such a big deal. Who in the industry is so particular about it? Kong Qing said recklessly. Deng Xiaojiang rolled his eyes. If you're so capable, why don't you talk to the people up there? As he spoke, he pointed to the sky. Kong Qing rolled his eyes. I haven't lived long enough. Then what the hell are you talking about? In any case, I don't agree to let Qingguang be the leading actor. Kong Qing was stubborn. I don't agree to change the script or the role. Otherwise, I won't be able to hand over the job. I won't be able to answer to the shareholders. You guys have it easy. You can just go on with the next one after messing it up. Those two ladies don't lack money. What am I going to do then? Seeing him like this, Big Beard Deng could only stare at him. If he really pushed Kong Qing into a corner, he might withdraw his investment. That would be terrible. But if he patted his chest and said, don't worry. Qingguang will definitely be able to act well. He will definitely be able to bring out the state of success in every scene in Country and Throne. Big Beard could not do it. He also felt that it was too sci-fi. Rin Chong and Zhao Yueling saw that the two of them were almost done chatting, so they came over. Director Deng, really, everyone is doing this for the good of the film. How about the old version of the script? Isn't it still written well? Rin Chong became the peacemaker. If the script was changed back, he would naturally become the leading actor again. Zhao Yueling chimed in from the side. Director Deng, we took on this film because of your reputation. Think twice. Think? Think what think? Not changing, absolutely not changing. At this moment, Jiang Yage suddenly came out from the side. She had deliberately arrived a little earlier today and sure enough she saw the show. It was really infuriating. Even if my Guang had no acting skills, I would still push him up. You guys are throwing a tantrum with me and making me angry. If I don't show my power, you guys will really think that I'm easy to bully. Jin Shirui tugged at her. Yage, don't be like this. Don't be so rash. Let's talk it over. Sister Shirui, how can we talk it over? It's such a good script. As long as one isn't blind, they would know that the new version of the script is much better than the old version. There's only one purpose in discussing it with them, and that is to replace Qingguang. Then what's the point of acting? We're not acting anymore. Jiang Yage stomped her foot again, her face as dark as water. Don't look at her usual mischievous appearance in front of Qingguang. In front of others, she really had such a rude and unreasonable temperament. With her background, she had the guts to throw a tantrum in front of anyone in the entertainment industry. At worst, we'll just break up. You guys wait, I'll slowly settle it for you later. She almost said this sentence. Kong Qing didn't expect Jiang Yage's reaction to be so intense. For a moment, he was a little embarrassed. But, Miss Jiang, I'm not targeting Qingguang and the two of you. It's really because our Qinda also invested in this film. He was hinting to Jiang Yage not to be too tough. They took up 70% of the investment. At worst, you guys can just withdraw your investment. Sister Shirui and I will take it all. It's not like we can't take it. What's the big deal? Kong Qing couldn't wait to smash his phone and leave. I'm talking business with you, but you don't look like you want to talk business at all. Why are you so unreasonable? Can't you talk properly? You find your Jiang Yage. I can't afford to offend you. Kong Qing finally understood Big Beard Deng's helplessness. She was really a great aunt. She was like an empress dowager when served. You. A sigh. Kong Qing bitterly looked at Jin Shirui. You should control your good sister. We don't do business like this. Jin Shirui pulled Jiang Yage again. If she didn't stop her, she would really slam the table and leave today. The scene was in a deadlock. No one could do anything. Obviously, neither side intended to retreat. Big Beard Deng rolled his eyes and waved his hand to call Yang Shi over. How about this? As for Qin Guang's acting skills, I, as a small assistant, have a lot of say. Back then he was the one who taught Qin Guang for a day. That's why there was that 30-second scene in Country and Rivers. How about listening to his judgment? Yang Shi pitifully called Big Beard Deng into a minefield. He first secretly looked at Big Beard, who was winking at him. Then he braced himself and said, "This Mr. Chen, although he has never been professionally trained, his professionalism is definitely not a problem." At that time he was only asked to act as an extra, but he learned several teaching materials by himself. That afternoon, although there were some bumps in the early stages of filming, after he found the feeling, the effect was really good. So, Xiaoyang, you want to say that as long as you teach Qin Guang well and give him more time, he will definitely be able to act well? Xiaoyang, you are also a professional. Do you think this is really possible? Can an extra without lines really be compared to the male lead? This time, are you also the one who brought Qin Guang in the film? Do you dare to be like the generals in ancient times and make a military pledge? If you can't act well, you will die as an apology? Facing a small character like Yang Shi, Kong Qing did not have any scruples with his words. His words were extremely unpleasant to hear. Yang Shi's face turned pale. He looked at Big Beard for help. "Director Deng, you are the one who called me here. Don't sell me out." Big Beard coughed twice and looked away. "Hurry up and help this old man take the blame. It's so tiring for me to take the blame alone." Yang Shi was about to cry. I followed Director Deng's gaze and spoke up for Brother Qin Guang. "You are really selling out your teammate." "That's enough, Director Kong. Don't make things difficult for Yang Shi's assistant. If you have any complaints, come to me. Come, let me sum up your words. If we insist on making Qin Guang the male lead, will your Qinda withdraw its investment?" Jiang Yage was already tired of this kind of wrangling. She said coldly with a sullen face, "Sister Shirue, don't poke my waist. It doesn't matter who says it. You can call me a shrew or say that I am unreasonable in your heart. Jiang Yage will take it all." Jiang Yage twisted her body and squeezed Jin Shirue's hand to the side. "Wow, this is going to be a mess." Kong Qing's eyelids twitched. Withdrawing investment is a small matter. Making money is a small matter. It seems that this time they are really going to offend Jiang Yage to death. If he had known that this lady was so domineering, he would never have come here. He should have just moved a bigger figure over. He couldn't handle it. He hurriedly looked at Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling. "You two were the ones who fanned the flames in my heart. Now that I am going to be skinned alive, you two are just going to watch? Don't look at others. Director Kong, just give me a definite answer. I don't blame you. This time we also went overboard. I know it in my heart. So I don't bear a grudge against you. We can cooperate again in the future." Jiang Yage said again. Kong Qing really had no choice. He coughed twice. After all, the original intention was the original version of the script. Qin Guang's position is not that important. With such a big change, it is necessary to discuss the cooperation method again. "Miss Jiang, I am not targeting you. Please pity me. I am just a poor laborer. Since I can't take it head-on, I can't afford to offend you. I admit defeat. I will pretend to be pitiful. I will cry in front of you." Seeing Kong Qing like this, Jiang Yage was actually quite embarrassed. But there was no other way. For the sake of my family's light, I have to suffer. You just have to bear with it. Weren't you quite capable when you slapped Yang Shi's face just now? Well, in the contract we signed, I am also the male lead. I feel that if we really make such a big change, I personally may not be able to accept it. At this moment, Ren Chong finally mustered up the courage to stand up against Kong Qing. Today's situation was instigated by him last night. If he betrayed Kong Qing just like that, he would be hated by Kong Qing again. Seeing that senior brother had expressed his stance, Zhao Yueling braced herself and said, "I have the same opinion as Brother Ren. After all, the changes to the film are too big." Now the other two main actors stood up again and pretended to stop acting. Kong Qing was no longer alone. "That's right. Actually, everyone is doing this for the sake of the film. Why don't Miss Jiang and Miss Jean reconsider? Next time we, Qinda, will definitely take the lead in making a tailor-made film for Mr. Chen, okay? He is a university student. We will make a film that best meets his standards and let him act as himself. I guarantee that it will be better than Love Under the Hawthorn Tree. Okay. We will find Lao Mao to direct. He and Director Deng each have their own strengths. The effect of Mr. Chen's acting is much better than women. We are all people in the industry. Think about Mr. Chen's situation. If the film is ruined and his reputation is ruined, it may not necessarily be a good thing for him. As expected of the wily old fox Kong Qin, he could still say such reasonable words in this situation. Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui were almost convinced by him. In fact, it was not that the two women had not thought of this problem. It was just that they had finally pushed things to this stage and they were a little unwilling to back out at the last minute. In addition, Qin Guang did not clearly express his intention to back out, so the two of them wanted to take advantage of the situation to get things done. Yage, why don't we ask him and discuss it with him? Jin Shirui wavered. Jiang Yage looked back at Jin Shirui helplessly and whispered in her ear, Sister Shirui, you don't want the passionate scene? Jin Shirui blushed and said to the others, I still think we can give it a try. Everyone rolled their eyes. Just what were the two of you whispering about? Lady Jin from the Jin family, your willpower was too weak. Ren Chong did not want to admit that he was so jealous of Qin Guang's life that he almost went crazy. What right does that stinking brat have to be promoted like this by these two great ladies? I can't figure it out. I'm not acting anymore. What kind of sh*t is this? You can find someone else, whoever you want. Anyway, I'm not acting anymore. Ren Chong's mentality finally lost balance. He waved his hand fiercely and turned to leave. Zhao Yueling saw her senior brother flipping the table. Although she was also afraid, she had no choice. She and her senior brother were tied to the same boat. If it has to be like this, Brother Ren's sacrifice is really too big. I can't accept it. This is too different from our contract of intent. If it really can't be done, Brother Ren and I will quit. You can find someone else. Many people are lining up to shoot director Deng's film. I'm really sorry. But I hope the box office will be a big hit. This is too much. I yield step by step. This is really bullying. I, Ren Chong, am the male lead with a total box office of 3 billion. I just won the best actor this year. Even if you want to promote a newcomer with a little bit of foundation, I will play a supporting role for him. I will accept it even if you change the script like this. Now it is clearly a bad film and I still play a supporting role. This really has a great impact on my acting career. I really can't accept it. Ren Chong was really going to leave after saying that. Deng Xiaojiang, Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage were also anxious. If they lost Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling at this critical juncture, people inside and outside the industry would think that they were too overbearing and unreasonable. On the other hand, it was not easy to find actors of the same level as them. Planning a show, especially with Deng Xiaojiang's style, had extremely high requirements for the actors' schedules. In the end, if everyone really fell through, it would only be a lose-lose situation. Who knew how long it would take to start the project again? As his ally, Kong Qing also gritted his teeth. If it really can't be done, then let's put this film on hold for the time being. I won't be able to report when I go back. Why don't we postpone the press conference today? Let's discuss again? In the distance, Zhouya had just arrived. From afar, he could smell the gunpowder in this small group. He quickly shrank back and did not dare to show his head. He huddled in the corner of the wall, not daring to approach. He patted his chest, still in a state of shock. He secretly rejoiced, thank goodness my eyes are sharp. Otherwise, I would not have been able to get out if I had gone in head first. I don't care about anything anyway. I'm just a nobody. I'll act whatever you want me to act. I'll act however you want me to act. At this moment, Zhouya raised his head and saw Qin Guang walking out of the elevator. The man's current appearance was a little awkward. He was actually wearing a large straw hat on such a hot day. Compared to the last time he saw him at the Wujing Film City, this young man was really becoming more and more like a star. Zhouya would never forget this young man's gray and unsightly appearance. After all, this loser had smilingly won 80,000 yuan from his trouser pocket on the set. Of course, he had no intention of getting close to Qin Guang. Instead, he quietly turned his face to the wall, looking as if he was thinking about life. Who wants to go into the fire with you? Yo, brother Zhou. Long time no see. You're in this film too. 2 streams of tears rolled down Zhouya's cheeks. Your eyesight is as good as mine. Yeah, long time no see. I'm the 3rd male lead. The veteran actor turned around and squeezed out a smile. What a coincidence. Then brother Zhou, shall we bet something this time? I'm just kidding. Look at you. Don't worry, I'm not as short on money as I used to be. Anyway, I'll have to ask for your help this time. Qin Guang had a good impression of this man who was willing to admit defeat. Regardless of the amount of money or the reason, he had given him 80,000 yuan for free back then. It was like sending charcoal in a snowstorm. It was more friendly than someone else giving him 800,000 yuan now. You flatter me, you flatter me. Zhouya was tugged on by Qin Guang's sleeves and dragged inside. By the way, brother Zhou, I have a friend who's a fan of yours. Can you give him an autograph? No problem, no problem. I'll give you as much as you want. Even if it's just a book, it's fine. Don't pull me. Don't actually go to the front desk to borrow a book. No matter how much Zhouya struggled, he was still dragged inside by Qin Guang. It was about 9:30 in the morning. The two of them turned the corner and entered the lobby. Qin Guang could smell the gunpowder in the air. Jiang Ye's face was so dark that one could squeeze water out of it. Jin Shiyue's face was also stony. Big Beard looked left and right in embarrassment. The second male lead, Ren Chong, and the second female lead, Zhao Yueling, also had ashen faces. Beside them, there was a middle-aged man who looked both embarrassed and angry. There was no need to think too much. This conflict must have arisen because of him. When he thought of this, he was both angry and amused by these pitiful mortals. You guys take the clothes. Seriously, there were many people like you who doubted my abilities in the past. Now they're sending me letters every day, okay? Chapter 673. While they were quarreling, Qin Haodong suddenly came. Yesterday he didn't show up for some reason, but today he came early, which caught some people off guard. Jin Shiyue's expression changed. She patted Jiang Ye's back secretly, and then turned to Qin Guang. Seeing that he covered the bandage on his head with a straw hat, it was obvious that he was injured. She couldn't help but feel distressed. When she got closer, she took the initiative to pull his arm and take him to the side. She said half reproachfully and half coquettishly, "Grandpa called and said that you ran away from the hospital. Did you really run away by yourself? What if your injury got worse?" Qin Guang smiled and waved his hand. "It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This injury is not a problem for me." Qin Guang was pulled aside by Jin Shiyue, and then asked again, "What the hell is going on?" Jin Shiyue didn't want to tell him, but she knew that sooner or later it would be revealed, so she simply told him the current situation. After listening, Qin Guang understood. It was exactly as he had expected. No one trusted his ability. Not to mention the second male lead, Ren Chong, the second female lead, Zhao Yueling, and the other investor representative, Kong Qing, even Big Beard Deng Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye were not sure. He sighed in his heart. After all, his experience of playing a small role last time had caused too much psychological trauma. He couldn't blame others. If he were the director and investor, he would also have no confidence in his heart. After all, he used to be responsible, and he couldn't open his mouth and tell others that the old man had practiced in the world in the cup. He could only blame himself for not acting before to prove himself, even if it was a music video. On the other side, Kong Qing, Ren Chong, and Zhao Yueling saw Jin Shiyue whispering to Qin Guang, and Deng Xiaojiang and Jiang Ye had begun to close their mouths and pretend to be crazy. They were getting more and more anxious. This couldn't work. They were using a delaying technique. The press conference would be held in half an hour. Once the matter was said at the conference, it would be completely settled. At that time, it would be difficult to go back on their words. As a result, the three of them began to ridicule the bearded man again. As for Jiang Ye, the three of them did not dare to provoke her. She had proved her fighting capacity. She was definitely at the level of a great aunt. "We can't afford to provoke you, but we can avoid you, okay?" "You're right. We'll agree to it. I'll turn around and complain to Big Beard." "That's fine, right?" Before Qin Guang came, Jiang Ye was very fierce. Her combat power was as high as 90,000 points. It was really strange. The saying, "everything has its vanquisher," came true when it came to her. When Qin Guang stood there, even though they were whispering to each other 10 meters away, Jiang Ye couldn't help but act like a lady. She also knew that her blindness would only bring more trouble to Qin Guang. She was also reflecting on this matter in her heart. "Shiyue, what you mean is that Qinda Entertainment is threatening to withdraw its investment because of me, and those two are also threatening to stop acting because of me?" Qin Guang concluded as he stole a glance at Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling. Honestly speaking, the two of them might be the second best in this film, but they're still first-rate celebrities that frequently appeared on television. Qin Guang had quite an impression of them, especially Zhao Yueling, who walked the route of sexiness. She was also someone that appeared on the cover of men's clothing in the past, and her photo was widely circulated in the male dormitory, leaving a deep impression on him. Jin Shiyue nodded. "It's like this. In fact, it's not a big deal for Qinda Entertainment to withdraw its investment. Solomon and I can think of a way to make up for it. It's just that if we don't get along because of this reason, Qinda Cinema will suppress the movie after it's released." Qin Guang said curiously, "They are so bold?" You don't even care about your reputation? Jin Shiryu shrugged. Do you really think Solomon and I are royalty? It's business. How can we use power to suppress others? Besides, Chinda Entertainment has a say in Grandpa's place. But that's not the most troublesome thing. Now I'm afraid that Rin Chong and Zhao Yueling will break their contract and stop acting. It's easy to find ordinary actors, but it's actually quite difficult to find good actors who can support a film and meet director Deng's casting standards. Jin Shiryu didn't finish her words. In fact, she just didn't want the film to be put on hold. Apart from shooting with Chen Guang, she really couldn't think of any other reason to get together with Chen Guang. Okay, I know what's going on. Okay, I'll go talk to them. Everyone is reasonable. As for Chinda Entertainment, they are not the only cinema chain in our country. Although Chinda Entertainment is the largest, as long as the film is good and the box office is good, they can suppress us if they want. It's just that they can't live with money. Don't worry. After asking clearly about the matter, Chen Guang had an idea and went into the crowd. Jin Shiryu followed behind him and couldn't bear to roll her eyes. According to her previous thinking, it was easy for Big Beard's film to have a good box office and a good reputation. But this time there was you. My sweetheart, you should be a little more conscious. Frankly speaking, Jiang Yage and Jin Shiryu were already mentally prepared to shoot a so-called blockbuster that would explode with word of mouth and rely purely on screenings and box office to forcibly pull it up. It was impossible to do this kind of fake thing without Chinda's cooperation. On the other side, Kong Qing saw that he was approaching and knew that the main character was here. He made up his mind and thought that this was the last chance. It was better to let the main character know the difficulties and retreat than to find someone else to argue with. He suddenly raised his voice. Old Deng, I've said all the good and bad things to you. The film is too different from the previous contract we signed. I'll take your new script back to reevaluate it. It definitely won't pass the review of the consultant group. I really want to work on this film with you, but you also know that I can't make the final decision on my own. If you insist on doing things your own way, then Chinda Film and Television will really withdraw their investment. Seeing this, Rin Chong and Zhao Yueling also followed. This was the last chance to struggle. Director Deng, you also know that I wholeheartedly want to cooperate with you. But if I play the second male lead for Chen Guang, not to mention me, even my team won't agree to it. Our big star is here. Mr. Chen, I'm a fan of your car. A friend of mine saw your race in Xiangjiang. Later, he specially asked me to go to your Weibo to see the miracle. I really admire you. But as a matter of fact, your crossover is a little too fierce. Think twice. How about we slow down the pace a little? I don't want to act in a bad film. It really hurts people's popularity. If you're the first male lead in a bad film, it will also have a very bad impact on your film and television industry. Rin Chong could be said to have played his speaking skills to the extreme. If not for the fact that no faith value appeared on his head, Chen Guang almost really thought that he was his car fan. This damn liar, fooling me like a little kid. Zhao Yueling also struck while the iron was hot. Rin Chong played the good cop, so it was her turn to play the bad cop. As a woman, she had some pride and willfulness. Zhao Yueling crossed her arms in front of her chest, making her voluptuous breasts even more prominent. Her chin was slightly raised, further adding to her arrogance. Mr. Chen, nowadays it's popular to be able to act if you're good at it, or if you're famous, you can act. But as you can see, how many of our country's little fresh meats have acting skills? It's nothing more than taking the route of a fan economy, but it won't last long. I also acted step by step from a small role to where I am today. This kind of food has to be eaten one bite at a time. Don't think of eating yourself into a big fat person. Even if you rely on director Deng, Miss Jean, and Miss Jiang to act as the first male lead today, what's the point when you get scolded by others? Maybe you're just playing, but when the time comes you'll just go and do something else. We'll be in a difficult position. I really can't accompany you. Now, in front of the main character, they finally said all the unpleasant words in one go. Jiang Yage put her hands on her hips, glared, and was about to explode. Chen Guang silently grabbed the back of her clothes and gently pulled her, then gave her a look, asking her to behave. At this moment he understood the biggest trouble today. Chinda's withdrawal of investment was really not a big deal, but these two actors were difficult to deal with. However, the moment he saw these two actors he already knew how to deal with them, but he just hadn't decided whether to use it or not. Now that I've already made things clear, why don't you give me some face? You're trying to climb all over me and make things difficult for me. You want me to back off? From your standpoint I can understand you. But from my standpoint I'm angry. The old man felt that they were slapping his face. You don't want to act? Then I'll let you act. Even if you're so angry that you're vomiting blood, I'll let you grit your teeth and act. Whatever grievances you have, you'll have to swallow them. He grinned. Mr. Ren, Miss Zhao, I understand what you mean, but I have my own views. Why don't the three of us talk in private? Those who didn't know Qin Guang would be a little confused, but those who knew him could smell danger. Jin Shiyue wanted to persuade him, but Qin Guang still smiled. It's okay. I'm really just talking. It's just that it's not convenient to say this in front of others. Shiyue, don't let your imagination run wild. Jiang Yage also wanted to persuade him, but Qin Guang had long known that Jiang Yage had pestered others unreasonably because of him, so he simply made the first move. I haven't said anything about you, Yage. It's rare for us to cooperate, so let's talk about it. You have to be reasonable. How can you throw a tantrum so easily? Jiang Yage felt a little wronged, but she actually pouted her lips and lowered her head. Okay, I got it. The others were shocked by this scene. The devil incarnate Jiang Yage was actually subdued with just one sentence? Okay, let's talk over there. Ren Chong was not stupid. There were a lot of people here and everyone was watching. Qin Guang would not beat people in broad daylight. The three of them turned to one side, but Qin Guang was not in a hurry to speak. Instead, he smiled amiably. I'll call someone else. Then he craned his neck and glanced around the conference room looking for someone. Today, Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu of Qingguang Agency were busy with other things. After 2 days of hard work, they finally found some clues and were ready to spend money on Qin Guang's Guinness program. Only LV Xiaoyang came to the conference. But Qin Guang needed LV Xiaoyang at this time. Buttface, come here. Chapter 674. Qin Guang waved at Lu Xiaoyang, who was hiding in a corner and pretending to disappear. Lu Xiaoyang was quite regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have stood closer. Damn. Can you not call me buttface in front of so many people? I can't raise my head anymore. When Lu Xiaoyang walked closer, Qin Guang pulled him to his side. Let me introduce myself. I am the manager of Qingguang Agency's Publicity and Public Relations Department. I am Lu Xiaoyang. He was the deputy editor of Zhuo Wei's 8 weekly magazine. Yes, he was the former #1 paparazzi in China. He was Lu Xiaoyang's fighter. His nickname is Hell's three-headed dog. That's why I call him Dog 3. Come on, Dog 3, tell us where you were and what you were doing on the night of July 31, 2012. Who else is there? That's right, the two of them happened to be one of the hot topics in H-Disc. Truth be told, Qin Guang did not want to bring out his trump card, but the two of them were too much. They would stop performing at the slightest provocation, lecturing him about life and philosophy. Furthermore, they even put on the airs of seniors in the industry, acting as if they were doing it for his own good. You slapped me in the face, but you still smiled and said that I did this for your own good. You should thank me. That's so annoying. But come to think of it, the two of you have quite the taste. As Qin Guang spoke, he examined Zhao Yueling. Although I know that you're walking the path of sexiness, your ferocity is still extraordinary. Lu Xiaoyang looked at Qin Guang silently. President Qin, I followed you to do great things with you. You made me feel like I trusted the wrong person. How could you ask me to do such a thing? How could you remind me of the cruel fact that I used to be a paparazzi? I want to forget those days and nights. Why did you, Long River City, Imperial Garden Villa District, Building 13, 4th floor, room 1343. Why did I answer you directly? God, please believe me, I really am an honest media person, I am not a paparazzi. When Qin Guang mentioned the time, Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling couldn't recall anything. After all, it wasn't the first time that the two of them did something similar over the years, so how could they remember every single time? However, after Lu Xiaoyang pointed out the place, memories started to surface in his mind. He should be able to recall something. Qin Guang tried hard to make himself look very upright. He really didn't want to show the slightest bit of frivolity. After all, he didn't want Zhao Yueling to misunderstand that he had any thoughts about her. But this kind of thing, if he had to say it out loud, even if it wasn't wretched, it could only be wretched. Mr. Rin is at the bottom, Heavenly Empress Zhao is in the middle, and there's a sandwich at the top. Cough cough, a three-way pipe. Strong, invincible, quite costly. Towards the end, Qin Guang blushed a little, but he held on. Zhao Yueling's beautiful face paled, and Ren Chang's face turned even paler. Although his memory was a little blurry, the two of them had indeed played very crazily with one of the company's executives that night. It had actually been filmed. Actually, I really didn't want to mention this. Oh, right, both of you are the main producers of the movie and are colleagues in the same boat. It doesn't seem too appropriate to say this about me on Weibo, right? Qin Guang took out his phone again. On it were the doubts that Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling had about Qin Guang's standards after they went back last night. The two of them were also openly and secretly building up momentum online. On one hand they were pressuring Big Beard Deng, and on the other hand they were really planning to push all the blame to Qin Guang, Big Beard, and Jin Jiang after the movie was cancelled. Qin Guang's meaning was very clear. The two of them had done the first thing first, and now he didn't intend to do the second. He was just giving them a kind reminder, and it wasn't too much. Lu Xiaoyang rolled his eyes. He had watched this movie with Qin Guang that afternoon. In fact, he couldn't see anything clearly and the effect was terrible. However, Chief Chen's level of storytelling was really high. His words were concise and to the point, and when he listened to it he could actually feel the rich picture vividly on the paper. As expected of Chief Chen. He nodded slightly as if he was wandering in the sea of memories again. Mr. Chen, this is a misunderstanding. It must be a misunderstanding. Ren Chong waved his hands repeatedly. Zhao Yueling blushed at first, feeling ashamed and angry. However, she was not a little girl after all. She had been in the industry for a long time. Although she looked bright and beautiful in front of outsiders, she was able to get to her current position in the A-list without any background. She was already an experienced person and she quickly calmed down. Although she was still crossing her arms, she pushed her chest higher and smiled at Qin Guang. Mr. Qin, you really know how to joke. Alright, I know I was wrong, okay? If there's anything we can discuss it. This movie, I promise I will give my life to act well. Mr. Qin, please don't scare me. Her voice sounded very coquettish and her eyes were flying. However, her back was facing Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage in the distance. Her body language did not show any abnormalities. Only the few of them understood her overt and covert hints. The two of them were also helpless. Previously, they knew a little about the incident between Qin Guang and Bajou Magazine. Bajou Magazine was really unlucky, but who would have thought that Qin Guang would eat it up? In addition, this Cerberus was too scary. It was fine if you were a paparazzi, but you had 3 heads. If you could be given this nickname, how sensitive and fierce your sense of smell must be. In the past, when you worked with a rascal like Zhuo Wei, you were already a Cerberus. Now that you worked with Qin Guang, who had a powerful background, wouldn't you become a Cerberus? That was really scary. Being secretly sized up by the two of them with fear and hidden hatred, Lu Xiaoyang actually wanted to clarify that he was actually a good person. However, Qin Guang did not give him a chance. Okay, Cerberus, that's all for you. Go and have a rest. When Qin Guang, Ren Chong, and Zhao Yueling returned to the crowd, the situation had completely turned around. Needless to say, Kong Qing knew that they had been dealt with by Qin Guang just by looking at their apologetic eyes. What about the alliance? What about making trouble together? How could you two betray me just like that? What the hell did Qin Guang do to you? Are you going to put me on the fire and sell me? I, Kong Qing, am not a big shot? Aren't you afraid of offending me? Kong Qing was very angry in his heart. If he had not come today, he would still have a chance to shirk the responsibility if the movie was a failure. But now he had come to the scene and even talked with Deng Xiaojiang, and he had offended Jiang Yage. In the end, the movie was still made. He must be the scapegoat. I am the scapegoat. I didn't do my job well and I offended Jiang Yage. Why am I so unlucky? What should I do now? Should I continue to threaten to withdraw the investment? Then there is no way to ease the situation, right? Should I pretend that nothing has happened? I can't take the blame for this. At this moment, Qin Guang suddenly said something that made him extremely happy. Mr. Kong, I can understand your Chinda's difficulties. Why don't we do this? Right, uncle? How much is the initial investment of our movie? Kong Qing continued Qin Guang's words. Mr. Qin, what do you mean? The advertising budget is 500 million. In fact, including everyone's pay and other expenses, the initial estimate is about 200 million. After all, our movie is not a blockbuster with special effects. Hearing those words, Qin Guang's eyes lit up as he replied, I'm also in the wrong for this matter. I've just arrived and it's a little too much for Chinda Entertainment to bear the risk for me. Why don't I take over your company's investment myself? This is good for everyone. What do you think? He had just earned 150 million in endorsement fees a few days ago, and he was worried about how to spend it. He knew his own situation very well. This was the first time the world had sent a best actor, and there was Big Beard holding the fort. Other than Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui, Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling, although their private lives were quite messy, had always been good at acting and had a good reputation on the internet. They could be considered famous actors. Zhou Yu was also someone who could handle an entire movie on his own. Such a big production, a high-end cast, and a best actor himself holding the fort. Could this movie make a loss? Alright, even if there was an accident, it wouldn't be to the extent of losing everything. The biggest unstable factor in your hearts is me, but in my eyes, I am the most profitable person, okay? You don't want to earn this money, but I don't want you to earn it. I will set a small goal for myself. Invest 140 million, and earn at least 100 million, right? Besides, you are the one who didn't want to invest. I am taking advantage of the situation to help you take it and solve your problems. I did not offend you, did I? You have no reason to make trouble for me for the screening, right? Everyone was happy, very good. But there was someone who felt sorry for him. Jiang Yage tried to persuade him. It's fine, Sister Shirui and my Huan Entertainment. Don't. Yage, don't. Qin Guang was determined this time. He didn't want to be treated as a man who lived off a woman. Besides, you still don't trust me. You have helped me enough. It's not like I don't have money. I will spend my own money to film it. Even if it fails, I will bear the responsibility. I can also explain to outsiders, right? Why don't you transfer your investment to me? Qin Guang even had his eyes on Jiang Yage and Jin Shiyue's investment shares. Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage shook their heads repeatedly, determined not to give in. Looking at his confident appearance, they were almost speechless. The two women thought to themselves, crazy, he has gone completely crazy. Alas, forget it. Even if we lose all our underwear, we can still afford it. After thinking for a short while, Kong Qing gradually calmed down from anxiety and helplessness to frustration and panic. Then his eyes lit up. When I said that I would withdraw my investment before, I was angry or I was threatening you. Although I had no choice but to withdraw my investment, I would indeed offend people, especially Jiang Yage, the devil incarnate. I'm also very afraid, okay? Now you are offering to take over the responsibility. How can I refuse? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, okay? Okay. Kong Qing was afraid that Qin Guang would go back on his words, so he took over the responsibility immediately. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. Hey, it's a deal. Sangu, call Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu to come here. If necessary, call Su Li from the finance department to Yanjing. The first big deal of Qingguang Agency is coming. Qin Guang waved his hand. This was the advantage of having subordinates. As the boss, he only needed to set the general direction. As for the specific details of the cooperation, his subordinates would naturally run the errands. Lu Xiaoyang came over with a bitter face. To be honest, he felt like handing in his resignation letter. RCO Qin doesn't play by the rules at all. Unreliable, too unreliable. I don't know what you outsiders are really thinking. This dog, Apui as his lackey, I am very nervous. My Mr. Qin has embarrassed himself. We will definitely send him to a mental hospital before he loses all of the company's money. Brother Qin Guang, why is it so lively here? Just as they settled the matter, a loud exclamation came from the corner. Everyone turned around and saw that it was little Tsong, whom they hadn't seen for a long time. Hey little Tsong, why are you here? Qin Guang greeted him warmly when he saw his old acquaintance. Little Tsong came closer and greeted everyone before pulling Kong Qing in front of him. Kong Qing helplessly bowed to little Kong. Greetings, Seo Little Chang. Little Tsong laughed at Qin Guang. One look and I can tell that you don't pay much attention to me. You even asked me why I am here. So cold-blooded and heartless. So sad. Don't keep us in suspense. Just say it. Kong Qing interrupted. Mr. Chen, let me say it. Little Chang is the senior director of Qianda Entertainment, the parent company of Qianda Entertainment. Qin Guang thought for a long time. Wait, you are that annoying Chang Xiaotsong who is always talking on the internet? Damn, you only know now. Little Tsong wanted to cry. Chapter 675. Qin Guang didn't expect this, but it was also because he didn't pay much attention to Xiaotsong before. Although he also used Weibo, he rarely checked other people's Weibo. He only cared about finding news related to himself all day long. Now he understood everything. Qianda Entertainment was a subsidiary of Qianda Group, and Qianda Cinemas and Qianda Films were subsidiaries of Qianda Entertainment. The chairman of Qianda Group was Chang Qinglin, who was also the richest man in the country on the surface. He might not really be the richest man, but at least in the eyes of ordinary people. Chang Xiaotsong was Chang Qinglin's only son, who was also brother Xiaotsong in front of him. In a sense, if Qianda Films invested in women, Xiaotsong might come for a stroll because of him, and it was understandable. This brother is also not doing proper work. His family has such a big foundation, but he doesn't manage it properly. Instead, he's on the internet all day long, spewing nonsense here and there. In the past, when Qin Guang's classmates chatted with each other, they often complained about him. They felt that this guy had nothing to do all day long, and that he was just a nouveau riche blah 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 blah. After so many years of scolding him, it was only now that he found out that he was an acquaintance. It was so embarrassing. But the biggest problem now was that Qin Guang was about to kick Qinda Films out. Don't let Xiao Tsong. What? What the hell are you doing? Who gave you the ability to withdraw your investment just like that? Boss Liu agreed? Boss Chen agreed? Kong Qing, how dare you? If I didn't come for a stroll, would you really do such a stupid thing behind the company's senior management's back? Well, the impatient Kong Qing had already whispered this matter to Chang Xiaotsong. As a result, brother Xiaotsong really gave him face. The boss Liu and boss Chen he mentioned should be the other senior management of Qinda Films. After all, Kong Qing was just a department manager. But Qin Guang said, I really don't want you to give me face. Just withdraw your investment, and let me be a handsome man who quietly earns money. This is good for everyone. However, little Tsong obviously had other ideas. These days, his Bamboo Live broadcast was attached to Qin Guang, and he did not know how much he had benefited from it. The number of users has increased several times, and the company's valuation has increased more than tenfold. The entire Bamboo Live broadcasting platform is fiercely attacking the throne of the first in China. All of this was brought to him by Qin Guang, which made him yearn for more. Unfortunately, the contract he signed with Qin Guang did not have any binding force on Qin Guang. Well, with Qin Guang's current status in the underworld, even if there was binding force, he could not do anything if Qin Guang wanted to break the contract. Therefore, Xiao Tsong couldn't let Qinda Film and Television offend Qin Guang because of women. He said that he was just there to take a look, but in fact he wanted to prevent this from happening. Kong Qing made the decision based on his judgment of the market. He was 100% sure that as long as he brought it back to the shareholders' meeting, no one would object. How could he have thought that it would lead to President Chang? For a moment he was confused. President Chang, it's not like that. Mr. Qin, although he is a celebrity, he is not an actor trained in acting. He has no experience at all. It's an investment of more than 100 million, what if it fails? Shut up. Chang Xiaotsong was really angry. Why is this guy so blind? Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't understand this? Do I have to King tell you everything that's on my mind? The benefits that I, Bamboo Live broadcast, have gained from Qin Guang are worth at least hundreds of millions, okay? If you offend him here, he will go back to another company. Who do you want me to cry to? The loss is far more than 200 million, okay? You don't understand the current status of Qin Guang in the world of live broadcasting and internet celebrities. So what if it fails? I just want him to fail so that he will owe me a favor, okay? You lose here, I earn there, and the rest will come back, okay? The position of the investor? The position of the entire Qinda group is the position, okay? You're so narrow-minded and short-sighted. You're making such an important decision, and you don't even discuss it with the higher-ups? Qin Guang was also afraid that Xiao Tsong would forcefully pull back the investment from Qinda Film and Television, so he helped Kong Qing to smooth things over. Xiao Tsong, you're not in the film industry and your judgment may not be accurate. I think there's nothing wrong with President Kong's thinking. Since I want to play, you don't have to drag me down. Don't scold President Kong, I've already decided to shoulder it myself. Let's end this here. Xiao Tsong was anxious. Brother Guang, are you trying to draw a line with me? You can't. He quickly pressed down on Qin Guang's shoulder. No, it's not like that. Now that we're making movies in our country, it's secondary whether the movie is good or not. Oh no, I'm not saying that director Deng's standards are not important, but the entire market is based on the fan economy. It's the era of young male idols. Acting skills are not important, really not. With my brother Guang around, with just his face and enough publicity, even if our acting is a mess, we'll still get 1 billion yuan in the box office, okay? Furthermore, no matter how bad brother Guang's acting is, can it be worse than those young male idols with facial paralysis and embarrassment? Qin Guang rolled his eyes. Those who knew would know that you were supporting me, but those who didn't would think that you were scolding me, you son of a b****. Besides, you've gone around in circles for so long, but aren't you also looking down on my acting skills and thinking that I'll definitely mess it up? Then I have no choice but to kick you out. Otherwise, if you look down on me now, you'll have to rely on me to earn money in the future. Wouldn't that make me sick? Qin Guang waved his hands and feet. That's not right either. If I mess it up, even if you praise me all over the internet, the box office will still flop. No, you guys should withdraw your investment. Withdraw. Xiao Tsong shook his head like a rattled drum. No withdrawal. Definitely not withdrawal. Even if you beat me to death, I won't withdraw. A group of people at the side saw Qin Guang and Xiao Tsong arguing until their faces were red, and they felt that something was wrong. That's strange. Why did their positions seem to be completely reversed? Wouldn't Qinda withdrawing its investment be a terrible situation for Qin Guang? Wouldn't that mean that he would have to use his own money to take the blame? Besides, Xiao Tsong, you weren't this stupid in the past, right? You knew that women with Qin Guang as the male lead was a fire pit, so why did you still rush into it? Kong Qing felt that he was the unluckiest person. He really couldn't understand what went wrong with his judgment. Besides, although President Chang was a senior director of Qinda Entertainment, he almost never interfered with the actual operations of Qinda Entertainment, unless it was for his own show. Usually he spent most of his energy on his own Bamboo Live broadcast. But today he suddenly interfered. Wait, Bamboo Live broadcast? *CK, I seem to have overlooked something very important. Qin Guang and President Chang were very close. Previously, his live broadcasts were all on President Chang's Bamboo platform. Kong Qing wished he could give himself a slap. He finally realized that the hottest form of entertainment in the country was not movies or television dramas, but live broadcasts. Now that President Chang wanted to make Bamboo popular, he couldn't afford to offend Qin Guang. Yes, President Chang is right. President Qin, I was stupid just now. I apologize to you. After figuring out the crux of the matter, Kong Qing quickly changed the topic. Luckily it was in public. Otherwise he would have knelt down in front of Qin Guang. Qin Guang's balls hurt. Are you guys sick? Aren't you guys annoying? Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui were already speechless. They felt that they couldn't understand the thinking of this group of people. Big Beard Deng didn't even have the interest to interrupt. His mind was in a daze. What was going on with this world? Rin Chong, Zhao Yueling and Zhou Ye, who were watching from the side, sighed in their hearts. It was good to be rich. Although they weren't poor, it was rare to see two sides fighting to burn 140 million for nothing. It was the first time in their lives that they had seen it. As expected, one could see all kinds of strange things after living for a long time. The ancients didn't lie to me. However, Ren and Zhao felt a lingering fear when they thought about it. Luckily, they admitted defeat at the crucial moment. It seemed that the consequences of offending Qin Guang were more serious than they had imagined. Enough. Stop talking. We had just agreed on something. How could you change it so easily? Little Tsong, come with me. Qin Guang pulled Little Tsong to the side. When the two of them walked far away, Qin Guang directly exposed Su Tao's thoughts. Save it. I know that you're afraid that I'll get angry and not broadcast it on your Bamboo. Aren't you looking down on me too much? Am I such a narrow-minded person? Little Tsong thought to himself, if you aren't narrow-minded, then everyone in the country is a prime minister with a big belly. No, it's not like that. Little Tsong didn't care what he thought. On the surface, Little Tsong gave him enough face. Qin Guang shrugged. That's it then. We've been having a good time working together on the live broadcast. I don't have that much time to waste. Although I have my own company now, I'm not interested in jumping around. Don't think about it blindly. As for the movie, since director Kong and I have already agreed on it, then it's settled. I won't change it. If you insist on letting Qinda Entertainment continue to be involved in women, then I'll really jump ship. Little Tsong was dumbfounded. Qin Guang's attitude was very firm. Actually, he knew that when the movie was finished, Little Tsong would definitely understand why he wanted to kick Qinda Entertainment out. This movie would not be ruined. But that was not important. To put it bluntly, he and Little Tsong were business friends, not close brothers. He had made a lot of money from the live broadcast. It was enough that they had a good time working together. As for the movie, I will earn it myself. You don't have to come. In other words, if you really trust me in acting, I can share some profits with you. But if you look down on my acting, I have no intention of letting you win without doing anything. Alright, Sai. How about this? You should at least leave 10% of the investment for Qinda Entertainment. That way when it's released I can help you make more arrangements. Little Tsong said helplessly. Qin Guang thought about it in his heart. Little Tsong's suggestion was not wrong. Alright, then it's settled. The group of people talked about all sorts of things and finally settled the matter before the press conference officially started. Changing the contract at the last minute was a lot of work. Luckily, Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu were nearby and had already rushed over. They were professionals in this matter. Seeing the representatives of the three companies gathering together to organize the new contract, Jin Shirui was still not at ease. She tugged at Qin Guang's sleeve and asked, "Have you really decided?" Qin Guang nodded. "Of course. 120 million. Jiang Yage said. Qin Guang said casually, "Why are you so sure that I can't act well?" Jiang Yage pointed at Yu Hong, who was stamping the contract with a sullen face, Lu Xiaoyang, who was pale as a sheet, and Fang Tianyu, who was counting his fingers while calling Su Li. "Your employees' faces gave us the answer. Damn it, I will kick them all later." 10 minutes later, the press conference was in an uproar. All the reporters who had rushed to the conference had their eyes wide open. The male lead of Women was really Qin Guang. Director Deng's reputation was going to be ruined. Everyone hurriedly lowered their heads and prepared to rush the draft. Damn big news. In addition, after careful consideration and discussion, we have decided to change the investors of Women. The final result is that Qingguang Agency will hold 60% of the shares, Huan Entertainment will hold 30%, and Qinda Film and Television will hold 10%. Big Beard Deng held the newly signed contracts of the three families in his hand and read them out loud. Well, it was not enough to describe the situation in the press conference as an uproar. The recording pens in the reporters' hands even fell to the ground. They dug their ears, thinking that there was something wrong with their hearing. Qin Guang took over the microphone and adjusted his straw hat before chuckling. "Everyone, please don't doubt it. Yes, you didn't hear wrongly. My Qingguang management has decided to invest in Women. Please look forward to it. We will definitely bring you a perfect work." Damn it, are you stupid? Brother all-rounder, do you have to make such a big bet? Do you not care about money? Do you want to lose like this? Big Beard Deng and the others looked at his confident look and did not even have the mood to smile bitterly. Someone send a few cows to drag him back. "Mr. Qin, may I ask why you are so confident that you can act as the male lead of this movie?" "Hello, Almighty Superman. I am your fan, but don't you think your decision is too hasty? After all, Director Deng, we all know that you are a director who pursues excellence. You finally decided to let Qin Guang be the male lead. Is it because he has invested in this movie? Aren't you afraid that it will be a bad movie? So, the domestic film market is so impetuous now? Even a famous director like Director Deng will let an investor who can't act at all be the male lead?" After a short silence, the reporters in the press conference were in an uproar. Qin Guang looked at the people in the press conference, closed his eyes slightly and controlled his emotions. To be honest, he really wanted to tell everyone that they were questioning the world's best actor. But he held it in because no one would believe him just by saying it. They would only think that he was a fool. Silence. Everyone silence. All of your problems can be left to time. Qin Guang waved his hand and announced the end of the conference. It turned out that it was not just the people in the press conference who did not have high hopes for him. Perhaps, except for Qin Guang himself, everyone in the country who knew about this had the same thought when they heard that Qingguang Agency had squeezed out 60% of Qinda Entertainment's investment. Brother All-Rounder had become arrogant. Brother All-Rounder had gone crazy. Brother All-Rounder had taken the wrong medicine. Brother All-Rounder's ability to squander was as good as his gaming ability. Chapter 676. The press conference in the morning ended in a hubbub. Many of the other filmmakers showed up one after another. Then, a group of people sat down and talked for a while about their expectations for the movie. By 11 o'clock in the morning, most of the people had left. Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling ran especially fast. On one hand, they had other jobs to catch up on, and on the other hand, they were forced to stay for Qin Guang's big news. In their eyes, no matter who invested, it would not change the final outcome of the film. Jiang Yage and Jin Shirui were actually busier than Ren Chong and Zhao Yueling. It was just that the two women had been sacrificing their own time for Qin Guang's time. Now that the matter was settled, the two had to fly back to London in the afternoon to record songs. The recording of the new album had just begun, and the company in London had already complained a lot about stopping for 2 days. No matter how noisy it was on the internet, since things had been settled, they had to do it well. Qin Guang was too lazy to care about the rumors on the internet. No matter what they said, it would be more useful to shoot a set of trailer scenes. In a sense, other people's doubts about him were not wrong. They were not slandering him for no reason. What they said was well-founded and reasonable. Big Beard Deng still had a casting meeting in the afternoon, which was held at the Chinese Academy of Drama. Qin Guang had nothing to do, so he followed Big Beard Deng to watch the fun. The poor assistant, Yang Shi, was thrown to Qin Guang by Big Beard Deng again. His task was to become Qin Guang's shadow. To put it nicely, he was to explain the new script to Qin Guang, but in fact, it was just to give him special training before the movie officially started. Acting depended 70% on talent and 30% on hard work. It seemed profound, but in fact there was a systematic training method. Ordinary people would not know where to start and would only feel that it was like a cow eating a pumpkin. But in fact, domestic film and television colleges had their own set of methods. A first-line director like Big Beard Deng had a unique way of training actors. Big Beard Deng thought that since things had already turned out this way, he would save as many people as he could. Let's practice his acting skills first. If it really doesn't work, I'll just change the script and change Chen Guang's male lead into a man with facial paralysis. If he doesn't have acting skills and doesn't know how to make expressions, then he'll have facial paralysis the entire time, right? Sigh, uncle, I've been scolded like a fool since yesterday. Why does everyone insist that I can't do it? A man can't say no. In short, thank you for supporting me this time, uncle. Fortunately, you believe in me. Thanks. Walking side by side with Deng Xiaozheng on the campus of the Chinese Opera, which was, in a sense, the holy land for boys, Chen Guang said excitedly, "No matter how the world looks down on me, I'm lucky that uncle believes in me." Chen Guang was still touched. Even Jiang Yage and Jin Shirihua don't believe in me. Up until now, only uncle hasn't said anything to make me sad. Yes, that's right, uncle, you're so determined to push me to the top. I understand. You're the one who thinks the most of me in the world. You're indeed a famous director. You must have a pair of eyes that can see through the minutest details and see the essence of things. You must have discovered long ago that I'm actually a genius, right? Big Beard Deng silently pondered over the script in his heart. I don't believe you, I'm the one who regrets it the most, okay? I, Deng Xiaozheng, have been making movies all my life, and it's not like I've never been scolded as a lousy movie before. But so far, even if it's a failed movie, maybe it's because the consciousness was too advanced, or maybe it's because the story was too profound, or maybe it's because of funding problems during the shooting period. The only thing that has never been a failure was because the actors weren't good enough. For example, Black Chicken, which is now recognized as a prophecy of God. Dinner is even more shocking after being scrutinized by a large number of film critics. At that time I was also scolded, but after being scolded, people could still find some of the things I wanted to express from the movies I made, and it also gave me a sense of superiority in terms of intelligence. But this time, sigh, why did I change the script like that? Deng Xiaozheng wanted to chop off his own hand. Little Chin, have you read the new script? I haven't had the time. Is there a problem? Oh, then you'd better wait until I'm done. I want to make another change. I should make your character look colder. That is, no matter if you're happy, sad, or angry, you should always be able to maintain a calm and unflinching state. It'll be especially cool. Uncle, you're talking about facial paralysis, right? No, how can that be, ha? Chen Guang silently removed Deng Xiaozheng from the list of people on our side. So this guy doesn't trust me either. If it wasn't for the fact that he had trained in the acting world, he actually didn't even want to play the supporting role. But now was different from the past, and he was no longer the ignorant person he used to be. He was also eager to prove himself in the field of acting. After all, what if he was lucky enough to earn a statue of the best actor? That was a statue of the one-line sky level. Although he didn't know how much stronger it was compared to the statue of Jianling Tian, it was still worth looking forward to. Perhaps this wasn't something that could be achieved overnight, but at least you guys have to let me take the first solid step. Therefore, this women not only had to be acted, but it had to be acted well. It had to be performed with grace and charm. It had to be so good that people would be sincerely convinced and not have any doubts. Well, in a sense, Uncle Big Beard's friendship with me is really good. With his reputation on the internet, he can easily catch an A-list celebrity and scold him for half an hour. He's so harsh. He obviously looks down on me, but he still stubbornly supports me. It's basically like burning the golden signboard that he built for so many years to send me to a hot air balloon. Uncle, I really thank you for your stubbornness. You're really great. No, I won't play the role of facial paralysis. I won't do it even if you beat me to death. Although Big Beard understood Chen Guang's feelings, Chen Guang was aiming for the best actor throne. So how could he become paralyzed before he could even become an emperor? If that happened, it wouldn't be easy for him to make a comeback in the entertainment industry. Hence he couldn't agree to it. Seeing that Big Beard Deng still wanted to persuade him, Chen Guang said again, "Actually, uncle, how can I not see which version of the script you're most satisfied with? You don't want to film a half-baked character that you're not satisfied with, right? Why don't you try? Have some confidence." AI. Big Beard Deng sighed. He thought to himself, forget it. When the time comes, the boat will cross the bridge. I'll prepare 2 sets of scripts first. When the time comes, I can't say anything if he messes up a few more times. I'll just change the character's personality, but it won't affect the overall shooting plan. Yang Shi, come over and tell Qin Guang about the new script first. I'll go and choose the actors first. Big Beard said and left Qin Guang and Yang Shi outside the venue. Qin Guang actually wanted to go in and watch the excitement, but he was also curious about what the new script was like. After some hesitation, he dragged Yang Shi to the water bar near the venue. Unlike normal schools, Chinese opera students rarely went home even during the summer. Most of them stayed in school to wait for opportunities, go to Hengyan for filming or study on their own. The acting industry looked glamorous, but it was full of sweat and tears. One had to have real skills. Even the queen of bad movies, who was always criticized like a vase, actually had acting skills. But acting skills alone weren't enough. There were some rules in this industry that couldn't be avoided. Didn't a genius actress like Zhao Yueling also have some dirt on her in H-Disc? Did she really like that kind of thing? Not necessarily. Walking in the pugilistic world, people couldn't help themselves. People like Jin and Jiang, who had strong backings, who were fearless and could control their own fate, were few and far between. The decorated water bar was located in a curved hall with floor-to-ceiling glass, covering an area of about 200 to 300 square meters. The afternoon sun shone through the light brown glass into the hall, bringing a warmth that couldn't be dispersed. White bookshelves, white wind chimes, white piano. The entire water bar reverberated with Rang Hisaishi's piano piece 4 Castle in the Sky. Beautiful boys and girls gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, whispering to each other in the water bar. Sometimes they would make high-pitched sounds as if they were rehearsing for a play. Yang Shi sat on a chair, spread out the script and placed it in front of Qin Guang. I really miss it. Brother Yang, did you graduate from this school? Qin Guang asked as he marked down a latte on the waiter's list. Yang Shi nodded. Yeah, I used to be like them. I would bring a few classmates here to rehearse and discuss plays and stuff. Brother Yang used to be a successful person. Qin Guang could hear the pride in his words and teased. Yang Shi sighed again. Yeah, I really didn't encounter any setbacks in the past. Before I met you, there was no stain in my life. However, he quickly reacted to the dispiritedness in his voice and pulled himself together. But Director Deng is right. How can everything go smoothly for a person? Without experiencing some setbacks, how can you understand the beauty of seeing the rainbow after the storm? Alright, let's look at the script. Qin Guang had already memorized the old script, but it was the first time he saw the new version. The movie told the story of a retired boxer from the perspective of the female lead, Jiang Yage. This boxer used to fight desperately to cure his ex-girlfriend, Jin Shiriyue, until he won the championship and stood on top of the world. However, his ex-girlfriend, who was terminally ill, eventually passed away. After that, the disheartened boxer chose to retire, took over his ex-girlfriend's craft shop, and lived an ordinary life. The female lead, played by Jiang Yage, the boxer's former fan, suddenly broke in and broke the boxer's peaceful life. This girl next door, who had just grown up, melted the retired boxer's withered heart little by little with her fiery passion and sunshine that seemed to never dissipate. Through a series of events that made people not know whether to laugh or cry, the retired boxer went from being extremely resistant to this little fan at first to slowly accepting her. Finally, under her encouragement, he put down his craft knife, put on his boxing gloves, and once again stood in the ring to prove himself. The whole story was based on the retired boxer played by Qin Guang, and Jiang Yage's struggle and never giving up. On the surface, it was about the story of the boxer played by Qin Guang, but in fact, it was to promote the lively, strong and independent temperament of modern girls. The movie was temporarily named Women, but it was not about ancient wars. Instead, it was to tell people that girls born in the 90s were not the lost generation. They might be willful, stubborn, or even rebellious enough to run away from home to chase stars, even if the things they liked seemed so strange. As a girl, she was infatuated with boxing, and even more infatuated with a retired boxer. But hidden behind all the shortcomings of this girl born in the 90s was a burning heart of innocence. In the movie, Rin Chong played another successful boxer. When Qin Guang dominated the boxing world with the name of a genius, he had just made his debut, although he was older and had nothing. He felt that he was living in the shadow of Qin Guang and was treated coldly. He crazily wanted to take away everything that Qin Guang had as a boxer, including the lovely and charming Jiang Yage, who could make people feel happy just by being close to her. While Jiang Yage encouraged Qin Guang, the down-and-out retired boxer, Rin Chong launched a crazy pursuit of Jiang Yage from another angle so that the girl, Jiang Yage, had to face more realistic things such as money, status, family pressure, etc., forcing her to make a cruel choice between dreams and reality. At first, in order to highlight Jiang Ye's role, Qin Guang's role was diluted, and Ren Chang's role was more important as the male lead. But after a few major changes to the script, Ren Chong had to step back. As for Zhou Ye, he played a high-ranking official in the boxing association, and Zhao Yueling played Zhou Ye's girlfriend, who was also an influential secretary and president of the boxing association. Their roles were also set to be the antagonists in the movie, suppressing Qin Guang in various ways. Especially Zhao Yueling's role, she and Jiang Ye's role were polar opposites. One was young and impetuous, seemingly immature, but had a pure heart. The other was slightly older but had long been in a high position. On the surface she was a strong woman that everyone feared. She wore a lot of name tags on her and her words carried weight. She did things swiftly and decisively, but behind the glamour was an ugly soul. How is it? The script is not bad, right? It's more impactful than before, right? Yang Shi was also part of the main creative team that made the major changes to the script. Although he did not have much confidence in Qin Guang's acting, people always liked to be praised. Qin Guang said strangely, "It is more impactful, but this theme seems to involve some unspoken rules in the sports world. Can it pass the review? Won't they be pinched?" Yang Shi smiled proudly. "Isn't our director Deng? Isn't the female lead Jiang Ye? We're promoting positive energy in general, so how can it not pass the review?" Qin Guang said, "But then again, just looking at the script, I think this movie is quite artistic. Why is the investment so high? I can't figure it out." Yang Shi rolled his eyes at him and stretched out a finger. "Do you think we want to? Just the salary of the few of you lead actors added together is already more than this amount." Qin Guang felt particularly annoyed. "After all this time, I've already taken out more than half of my money, and it turns out that I've taken back more than half of it." Yang Shi shrugged. "What else can we do? Nowadays, the salaries of domestic artists are shooting up like a rocket. There's nothing we can do about it. There's a crazy influx of capital from all over the country, and there's nowhere to spend the money. This is the market trend, and even a famous director like Director Deng has to follow the market trend. A few days ago, that bunch of idiots, Guang Zhuangju, actually made a public opinion statement saying that they wanted to regulate the artists' salaries. That was nonsense. The eyes of the masses were as clear as snow. Why would they need laymen who only know how to slap their heads to pester them endlessly? This situation can only last for a year or two. Before long, the market will naturally make a choice. The ones who can last until the end are the ones with real money and real ability. Brother Qin Guang, we really need to think about it. Don't get a bad idea. We can't be a little fresh meat." Qin Guang said, "First of all, the director of the general administration will not take the blame. We don't care about this. Also, the old man must be that person with real ability. You really don't have to worry about him." As he was complaining in his heart, Yang Shi magically took out a book from his bag. That's right. It was the book Qin Guang had already read. "Let's start with this book? Let me tell you about the basic concepts of performing arts first." Qin Guang rolled his eyes again. "I've learned this book in the world of cups. I can recite it from the last word to the first word without a problem. Come on. The front is all nonsense. Turn to the 5th page, the 2nd paragraph, the 3rd line. The original words are like this. What is performing arts? Actors play characters. Through organized actions, they create living, flesh and blood, full of personality and have artistic appeal. The basic principles of performing arts are." Yang Shi turned to the page Qin Guang mentioned in bewilderment. He glanced at it and was stunned. *CK. Can you not be such an animal? Can you not be so professional? Young man, when did you memorize it? Did we all misjudge you? Did you really come prepared? This is not scientific. Turn to the 15th page. I think there's a sentence in it that makes sense. Qin Guang felt that showing off once was not enough. He decided to beat Yang Shi to death. If he wanted to relax and not be pestered by this young man all day, he had to make him kneel first. The two chatted for an hour or two. Yang Shi took out a few books from his bag, such as Stanley's Actor Self-Cultivation, Methods, 4 Systems of Self-Training, etc. As a result, Qin Guang could recite all of them fluently. Not only could he recite them, the key was that his understanding of these works had completely exceeded Yang Shi's imagination and realm. Yang Shi could not understand what was going on. The last time he met Qin Guang, he was still a complete novice. Only a few months had passed since then. Even if he had not proven himself in front of the camera, just based on his theoretical knowledge alone, he seemed to have completely surpassed Yang Shi, who had 7 or 8 years of experience in the industry and had already made a name for himself in the industry. The two of them were so engrossed in their conversation that they did not notice that the other student groups in the water bar had quietly gathered around the tables near them. They pricked up their ears and listened to their conversation in a daze. Yang Shi closed the last book he carried with him with a blank expression. After listening to Qin Guang's analysis, he was so ashamed that he wanted to erase all the notes he had written and drawn in the book with correction fluid. Qin Guang, I really, King give up? Damn it, your life is practically a cheat. Chapter 677. Qin Guang made a fist and palm salute. You flatter me. Do you think I can act now? Yang Shi hesitated for a while and finally said through gritted teeth, if you are not an armchair strategist like Zhao Kuo, then you can act. What Zhao Kuo? This gentleman here is a master, okay? He is even better than our teacher. The group of students had been eavesdropping for a long time. A girl could not help but loudly refute for Qin Guang. Even Qin Guang was startled. When he turned his head, a fragrance assaulted his nostrils. Holy shit. When did this girl sit beside him? He touched his face. Did I become more handsome recently? All the girls in my vicinity will be attracted to me involuntarily? Hey, isn't that Senior Yang Shi? Someone finally recognized Yang Shi. As an outstanding graduate of Chinese opera, Yang Shi was quite famous in the school. I heard that Senior Yang Shi is in the crew of women. So this is, Bro Pantheon. Oh my god. Qin Guang. I am your fan. Bro Pantheon, I just scolded you on the internet yesterday. I regret it. I didn't expect Bro Pantheon to be so awesome. Bro Pantheon, can I have your autograph? Me too. Well, being famous also had its disadvantages. It was easy to be seen through. Feeling the crowd around him, especially the beautiful figures of the Chinese opera female students, Qin Guang looked calm, but his heart was as sweet as honey. I want to be famous so much. Isn't this the moment I am looking forward to? Don't push. Everyone don't push. Your breasts are making it hard for me to breathe. Everyone don't touch me. Little girl, be more reserved. Don't touch my butt. Don't. Let me tell you, if you put your hand under my crotch again once the old man's power is triggered, you will break your bones. Being famous had its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage was that there was always an endless number of advantages to be taken advantage of in a crowd like this. The disadvantage was that even though he was feeling extremely good, he still had to maintain the appearance of a gentleman on the surface. Pain and happiness. After a long time, Qin Guang and Yang Shi finally escaped from the water bar in a panic. The casting call for Big Beard was still going on, but Yang Shi's mood was no longer the same as before. He was looking forward to seeing Qin Guang fight in front of the camera as soon as possible. If his actual combat level was even 1/10 of his theoretical knowledge, then it would be enough to support this movie. By that time, he would probably be able to become the assistant who was the best at training actors in the history of the film industry. At this time, Qin Guang received another call. Yu Hong and the others had finally settled the matter of going to Central TV. Qin Guang hung up the phone and smiled proudly at Yang Shi. I have some good news. Tomorrow I will go to Central TV to record a program at the Guinness Conference. I want to show the world who is the best sharpener in the world. Isn't there a scene in the movie about a handicraft shop? Uncle Big Beard is really amazing. This script is actually tailor-made for me, right? In a sense, he was not wrong. When they first met, Big Beard Deng realized that Qin Guang had the potential to become a boxing star. To act as a boxer, he did not even need to deliberately go to the gym. Once he took off his jacket, he would have the body of a standard lightweight boxing champion. The identity of a handicraft shop owner and the best sharpener in history was also a perfect match. Qin Guang patted Yang Shi on the shoulder. If you want to create hype, we have hype. If you want to act, we have acting skills. Follow me well. I will bring you guys along to show off and fly. Yang Shi was shocked by this master's confidence. Later that night, the two went their separate ways. Qin Guang had a meeting with the 4 mid-level executives of Qingguang Agency early in the morning to discuss tomorrow's Guinness Conference recording. On the other hand, Yang Shi was gesticulating in front of Big Beard Deng about what happened today. Unfortunately, Big Beard did not believe him. But when he heard that Qin Guang had decided to cooperate with the production team and decided to pay for CCTV, Big Beard was very touched. He was most afraid that this young man did not know his place and only wanted to act well. Now it seemed that he was very self-aware. He knew that the East is not bright, the West is bright. We can save our acting skills for now. But if we can create hype, we can at least guarantee the box office. Thinking about it, Big Beard felt sorry for himself. I used to be so strict. People said that when I did something, It was either I don't do it or I do it. Now that things have come to this, am I finally going to walk the same path as other directors? Now, I can only rely on hype to increase the box office. Is it the distortion of human nature or the abnormality of the market? Alright, stop lamenting. That's it. Yangshi, you should go and follow him. I will arrange for people to cooperate with him. If he is really successful in the handicraft industry, he can really make a big deal out of the movie. So, you go. After leaving the Chinese Opera Academy alone, Qin Guang wanted to go and see Wu Tong. But when he called, he found that Chief Wu's work was so heavy that it made people's hair stand on end. Just today she was outside with the people from the Key Case Investigation Unit. It was said that an international criminal had quietly sneaked into Yanjing. The matter was more troublesome than expected. The entire Yanjing police force was secretly working together to maintain public security. Wu Tong could not escape. Although Wu Tong was now the chief of the Guangzhou district branch, she still had the habit of taking the lead. She did not say anything when something happened. She would lead the team and the others would follow. Qin Guang did not feel good. Originally, Wu Tong should have stayed in the five capitals and enjoyed her life as a second generation. Now she was trapped in Yanjing and could not move. Come to think of it, it was his responsibility. As a deputy chief, he was always idling around. She was a division chief. This was the real working state. Don't work too hard. What if something happens to you? How am I going to live? Qin Guang said half jokingly and half seriously on the phone. Wu Tong was sitting in the command vehicle, chatting with him. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm an outstanding student from Shund. I have real swords and guns in my hands. I'm leading the charge not because I'm some random girl, but because of my fists. Come, I'll call someone over for you to listen to. Little Tong, tell me, who was the champion of the women's division in the Yanjing police system fighting competition last month? It's our Chief Wu. Invincible. Unifying the underworld. Okay, I won't let you show off here. Let's talk another day. I suspect that the terrorists who sneaked in this time are related to Xuelin. We haven't contacted Xuelin for almost half a month. In the end, Wu Tong could not help but tell Qin Guang about it. Qin Guang silently hung up the phone. He sympathized with the good comrades in Wu Tong's branch who were on the front line of the war. As for Xuelin, he sank his mind into the world in the cup again. His heart was at ease. So far, the only fanatic was still sending him faith points. The thread was still strong. Perhaps he was just hiding and dealing with the world breaker. He would not be able to contact the outside world for a while. It was useless to worry for nothing. He just needed to know that he was still alive. In addition, he made a simple call to Xuanqin. The workload of the Guangdong headquarters had been exploding in the past 2 days. The two little Lolas were busy. With the destruction of the Special Affairs Bureau, the new department, which was originally hidden in the dark, quickly came to the forefront. The headquarters was temporarily located in Wujing. They established a new office location for the headquarters, accepted the original Special Affairs Bureau employees from all over the country, and conducted further probing and negotiations with the major forces of the underworld who had secretly sent people over. With Qin Guang gone, the two little Lolas had to take care of all these matters. Sweetheart, why is it that in other people's cartoons, little Lolas like us can be so popular just by acting cute all day long, but when it comes to us we're always tired like dead dogs? Wu Miaowan threw the documents in her hands away like a goddess scattering flowers. She looked up with a dull gaze, but her hands reached out like lightning. In just a moment she had categorized the staff information of the various branches of the Special Affairs Bureau. Xuanqin sat in front of the computer. Stop complaining. We're both lucky. Didn't you see the 30-odd people that Qin Guang brought into his company? We have to do our work here and we have to stand guard in his company, cooking and cleaning. They're the ones who are miserable. That's right. Director, if you don't come back soon, I'll have to go to Beijing to arrest him. He's using the excuse of participating in the military exercise and never coming back. He's trying to shirk his responsibility. Xuanqin swung her hand and was so angry that she wanted to smash the mouse. Wu Miaowan comforted her. You can't think that way. After all, his current task is to stabilize the Wen family. Don't mention Wenwen. Xuanqin was really angry. Wu Miaowan turned to look at her childhood friend and laughed. You're jealous. You like our director. Like hell I like him. Xuanqin would never admit to such a thing. Do we really need to treat them to a meal? Qin Guang asked Lu Xiaoyang, who was sitting next to him, sitting in the private room of Yan Yushan restaurant. He was not very happy about this kind of social interaction. Buttface, you can just accompany the guests. Why do you have to drag me here? However, this time they had suddenly jumped the queue to appear on the program. Today they had settled the deal and tomorrow they would have to record the program. Moreover, they had to be the first one to jump the queue, which could be considered as owing a favor to the relevant leaders of the central television. However, the other party had specifically mentioned that they wanted to have a meal with him. Anyway, Qin Guang had nothing to do today, so he came here to sit. However, they had agreed to meet at 6:30, and now it was almost 7 o'clock, but no one had come. This made Qin Guang very unhappy, and it reminded him of a familiar feeling. Yes, that's right, it was the unpleasant experience of treating President Ma of the 5 capital cities with Zhu Jifa. He didn't even want to complain about himself. Was the old man going to fall into the vicious cycle of being pretentious and slapping himself while eating? He took out his phone silently. If that's the case, who can I summon to be my pretentious baby? Xiaolinzi? Save it. Only a few people really knew Xiaolinzi's identity. If the other party could recognize Xiaolinzi, he must be a tough guy. Brother Xiaobai? He should be able to take on a fight and he would definitely be able to hold the fort, but I have a mental barrier. As for the others, I really can't find any reliable choices. Thinking about it carefully, it was because I don't have enough face. If I really had the same status as Brother Xiaobai, who would dare to ask me to entertain people? Alright, if I used my identity as the chief of the Stabilizing General Bureau, I would definitely be able to intimidate people, but I can't say this. I have a luxurious robe, but I can only walk at night. So, who would have thought that I, the almighty Superman, the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, the chief of the Stabilizing General Bureau, would actually be reduced to the level of accompanying a third-rate celebrity? It really makes one sigh. For the sake of faith, for the sake of fame, in the end, I still have to sell my dignity. The group of people sat and waited for more than 10 minutes. Fang Tianyu was so hungry that his stomach was growling, while Suli took out some French bread from his satchel and started to fill his stomach. The few people from the Central TV Guinness program team finally arrived. The situation was not as serious as the previous time when Qin Guang and Zhu Jifa invited President Ma. After the group of people entered the door, they apologized profusely, saying that there were many things to do in the office, and to adjust the program arrangements at the last minute, they were extremely busy, and they were embarrassed to be late. Since the other party gave face, Qin Guang didn't put on an act and gave them enough face. It seemed like they were really busy with the change of the program. At the table, everyone chatted happily, looking very harmonious. Until the second group of people appeared, the atmosphere was very harmonious. This second group of people was the official staff of the Guinness organization. There were 2 tall men with blonde hair and blue eyes, and a rich lady with branded clothes on her body. The Guinness organization wasn't a traditional official organization, but a non-governmental organization that was spread all over the world. Its founding mission was to encourage people to challenge and surpass their limits. On the surface, it was a non-profit organization, but in fact, Guinness had made a lot of money from this name. In a sense, if someone was certified by Guinness in a certain aspect, at least in the eyes of the public, this person had basically reached the ranks of the world's best in this field. With Guinness's efforts to promote this concept in China, and with the help of some government agencies, the Guinness certification had become more well-known and recognized than overseas. Just like this time, Yu Hong and the rest had helped Qin Guang get approved by Guinness. Other than bribing some people in Central TV, these 2 Guinness staff had also received a lot of money. Of course, Qin Guang did not ask them about this matter. He had given them some funds and allowed them to do whatever they wanted. He was not a rigid person. In the past, Feng Yu was poor and had to work his fingers to survive. Now, it was easy to earn money, and anything that could be solved with money was not a big deal. All Qin Guang wanted was a big stage. As long as he stood on the stage, it was up to him whether he could pass the certification. There was no need for him to do anything behind the scenes. As long as one was not blind, they could tell that Qin Guang's pencil sharpening skills were unparalleled. Out of etiquette, Qin Guang used a standard British accent to communicate with the 3 foreigners. He did not even need Fang Tianyu to translate for him. Old Fang felt that he was a useless person. Chief Chen's accent is unparalleled. Lu Xiaoyang comforted him. Don't worry, Brother Fang. With you around, we feel like we are a team. Fang Tianyu was overjoyed. Really? Am I that important? Lu Xiaoyang nodded. Of course. A company without a marketing department is not a complete company. Although the marketing department does not seem to be of much use now. On the other side, Qin Guang was chatting with Lu Xiaoyang when he felt something was amiss. Since when did that rich woman sit beside him? What is she doing with her hand? Why is her hand on my thigh? Why are her eyes so watery when she looks at me? If it was a pretty girl looking at me like that, it would make me feel good. But Auntie, what are you doing? Stop messing around. I don't like your type. He did not expect to encounter such a situation. It was not easy to be a female celebrity in the entertainment industry, but it was not easy to be a male celebrity either. The rumors were true. There was actually a rich woman who liked this type. Stop messing around. You look older than my mother. Chapter 678. Mr. Chin, Mariana is the president of the Guinness Asia Pacific Council. It's a pleasure to meet you. The more she spoke, the closer she sat to Chen Guang. Her plump body pressed closer to Chen Guang. In addition, Mariana's jewelry store needs a spokesperson. Mr. Chin, your image is very compatible with my business philosophy. Can I invite you for supper tonight? As she spoke, she reached out to Chen Guang's arm and exerted a little force. Feeling Master Guang's firm muscles hidden behind the clothes rack, she silently swallowed her saliva. Her eyes shone even brighter. The two Guinness staff members next to her looked at the situation helplessly. Mariana was the widow of a jewelry tycoon in America. She was unrestrained, rich, and capricious. She had always been known as a male model hunter in the European and American social circles. In the past, she was just a nominal member of Guinness and never interfered with the specific affairs. These 2 days she happened to be traveling with her company's staff. When she heard that a Chinese celebrity was inviting her to dinner, she happily tagged along. Sure enough, she took a fancy to this Chinese guy. This performance was a little immodest, but it was in line with her usual style of doing things. She liked this kind of young and fresh body that was full of vitality. There was no difference between the East and the West. As long as the other party was famous enough, handsome enough, and sturdy enough, they were all within her hunting range. Chen Guang's stomach churned. He wanted to spit on this woman's face. Although the old man wasn't a good person, his aesthetic standards were too different from mine. I'm only selling my skills, not my body. I just want your Guinness to certify me. You're asking too much. Thank you for your kindness, Mrs. Smith, but I'm afraid I can't endorse your jewelry. I've already endorsed a jewelry company in China. Chen Guang remembered the last time he had dinner with Bai Hua. There was indeed a jewelry company among the endorsement contracts he had signed. He could use it as a shield. That's a pity, but it's okay. Mr. Chin, we can still talk about other things. The plump woman still didn't give up. She attacked Chen Guang again, her words becoming more and more obvious. Although the other people at the table seemed to be talking about their own things, they were also shocked by the scene on Chen Guang's side. The leaders of Central TV were filled with regret. It was actually Mariana Smith's request to invite Chen Guang to accompany the guests. At that time, they did not think too much about it and just invited Chen Guang along, thinking that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. However, they knew about the relationship between Chen Guang and Jin Shiyue, so they did not dare to offend Chen Guang. They did not expect the chairman of the Guinness Asia-Pacific region to have such an idea. Chen Guang felt like he was about to explode. If it was his old temper, he would have punched her in the face. If you were a hot blonde beauty with big wavy hair and blue eyes, it's not that we can't have a good conversation, but I really can't take your bite. He silently raised his hand and blocked the noblewoman's hands. Then he stood up with a cold expression and apologized. Everyone, I'm sorry. I have something urgent to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Mr. Chin, what do you mean by this? The noblewoman's face also turned cold, and she called out to Chen Guang from behind. Chen Guang turned around. When the others saw his expression, they knew that something bad was going to happen. They wanted to persuade him, but it was too late. Mrs. Smith, I don't know how you deal with people abroad, but this is China. Although I can speak a foreign language fluently, it doesn't mean that I understand your country's culture. Perhaps in your opinion this is a little rude, but in my opinion I have already used a subtle and clear way to express my disgust for your overly intimate actions, but you turned a blind eye to it, or are you playing dumb with me? I originally wanted to give everyone a way out. Using our ancient Chinese saying, it is to leave a way out for others. But if you insist on asking me what I mean, then I will tell you clearly that I don't care who you are, nor do I care what jewelry company you have. I'm already very rich, understand? After saying this long string of words, Chen Guang pushed the door open and prepared to leave. Mrs. Smith suddenly stood up. You have to know that I have a veto on the Guinness certification. Chen Guang almost laughed out loud, but he shrugged. Whether I have your certification or not is not as important to me as you think. The audience in front of the TV has their own judgment, and it won't matter if you give me a stamp or not. Also, I also want to know how you are going to give me a veto. Why don't we meet at the recording tomorrow? You can use whatever tricks you have. I don't mind. This time, Qin Guang really left, leaving everyone at the table looking at each other. The leaders of Central TV's program team did not expect this meal to end on such a sour note. They were actually in a difficult position, stuck in the middle. They did not want to offend Qin Guang, but the Guinness organization had been working with them for many years, and they knew each other very well. It was a happy cooperation to get rich together, so it was not good for them to be biased. Mrs. Smith threw a cold look at Qin Guang and left with a gloomy face, leaving the other two Guinness employees to clean up the mess. Mr. Yu, this time you're boss. One of the Guinness employees said hesitantly. Although Yu Hong felt that Qin Guang's reaction was a little too extreme, he was the boss. Since the boss had made the decision, the employees had to clean up the mess, but they could not go against the boss's wishes. They had to do things according to the boss's tone. Yu Hong smiled bitterly and said, Mrs. Smith's previous behavior did cross the line a little, so I hope Mr. Powell can help mediate. There are some differences in our culture, but it doesn't matter. As the old Chinese saying goes, no discord, no concord. We should seek common ground while reserving our differences. Powell continued to shake his head. Mr. Yu, you don't understand. Mrs. Smith also has a lot of say in the entire association. Besides, she brought her employees to China for a vacation. Her employees? Fang Qianyu, who was next to him, became interested. The masters of Smith Jewelry? Powell nodded. Yes. In fact, we have held competitions similar to Mr. Chen's performance in Europe and America before. At that time, the champions or the top few were all hired by Mrs. Smith. In a sense, Smith Jewelry may not be the largest and most high-end jewelry company in the world, but their top technicians are indeed a group of people with the most dexterous hands in the world. We may not be able to stop Mrs. Smith from activating the challenge mode tomorrow. The so-called challenge mode was rarely used in the entire Guinness certification system. Usually, the certification was only compared to the past records. After all, it was very difficult to gather all the people around the world who were particularly good in a certain field to participate in a small certification. Or, some people chose to challenge very unconventional events, such as blowing up 100 balloons in a minute. As long as they completed that, they would basically meet the certification standards. To activate the challenge mode, it usually took a long time to prepare, build momentum in advance, arrange the contestants, and go through a series of complicated preparations to gather the world record holder and the challenger together. Or, it was to gather other contestants who had already achieved enough in the field to challenge the new record together. The contestants could not be the kind that could be found on the street. At the very least, they had to have achieved enough certification and reputation in the field. For example, several of the top employees of Smith Jewelry Company were highly respected craftsmen in Europe and the United States. Each of them had more or less a different world record. Everyone was suddenly speechless. They could not help but worry about Qin Guang's fate the next day. If Mrs. Smith really did that, things would be really troublesome. Qin Guang's previous videos could indeed prove that he was very good in a sense, but who could guarantee that he would be able to win in the end under the attack of Smith Jewelry Company's employees? After all, they were people who had really proven themselves in the world competition, and more than one of them. Apart from that, the authenticity of Qin Guang's videos had yet to be verified. After all, no one present had actually seen him perform in person. In their original plan, Qin Guang's matter was at most a commercial hype. As for Qin Guang's real ability, they really did not have much hope. After all, what Qin Guang wanted to challenge was to sharpen the most Eiffel Tower pencil nibs in the shortest amount of time. There were no competitors. It was enough for him to show a level that was difficult for ordinary people to reach. He did not really have to surpass them. When he performed, he would add some sound effects, some rendering, some special effects, and then, with a bang, he would make it seem like something that was not very impressive. After all, who would have nothing better to do with pencils? No one really expected a new generation of celebrities like Qin Guang to put much effort into sharpening pencils. He would not be so bored, right? It was supposed to be a very simple and happy matter, but now that he had offended Mrs. Smith, things had become troublesome. Yu Hong's employees had personally helped Qin Guang write the bleach essay during the battle of wits and courage between Qin Guang and 8 Weekly. They had also seen some technical analysis, so they had more confidence in Qin Guang than the average person. But they still felt that things were quite troublesome. Mr. Qin was busy all day. He was good at this in the past, but now that he had not played for a long time, his skills had returned. What if he did not perform well tomorrow? Or Mrs. Smith's employees performed better than usual? There were more uncertain factors. What if they really sniped Mr. Chen? Thinking of how overbearing Qin Guang was when he left, Yu Hong and the others had a headache. You can show off for a while, but us employees have a headache when we have to clean up after you. The matter was not completed, and the initial investment was wasted. Mr. Powell, is there really nothing we can do about Mrs. Smith? Fang Tianyu wanted to light his cigarette again. He was very depressed. Powell shook his head. Although we don't want to admit it, Mrs. Smith is famous for her eccentric personality in the industry. Of course, she is also a billion-dollar tycoon, so she has the right to be willful. Unless you can convince Mr. Chen to lower his head and communicate with Mrs. Smith. Oh no. This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Not to mention Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu's employees, even the leaders of the Central TV program team were shaking their heads like a rattled drum. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. First of all, Qin Guang could not possibly have any interest in Marianne Smith. Second, introducing Jean Shiyue's boyfriend to a foreign lady was something that these so-called leaders of Central TV felt their scalps go numb just thinking about it. We can't take the blame for this. If we had known that your chairman was planning this, we would not have brought this meal today. Then there's nothing we can do about Mrs. Smith. She is the chairman. Everyone get ready to accept the challenge tomorrow. I hope Mr. Chin can win with as much vigor as he did just now. If there is any dispute, I think Mrs. Smith will find a chance to use her veto power as the chairman. Powell looked like a gentleman, but in fact they had lost face today. In the end, he could not hide his displeasure and left after saying a few words. After Powell left, the Central TV program team explained to Yu Hong and the rest. We didn't expect this either. Who knows? The old widow has been dry for a long time, so her taste is weird. Although our CEO Chin is not very tall, he is a little handsome. Men who are too handsome are also a disaster. Lu Xiaoyang commented. Qin Guang returned to the hotel alone. He did not care much about the incident just now. He had forgotten about it after the disgust. In the past he had always been proud that he was not ugly, but now it seemed that being handsome was also a sin. God had punished him for his sin. I admit to this sin. What do you think that fat woman is going to do? She even brought a master to snipe me? In the hotel, Qin Guang chatted with the four of them without looking back. At the same time, he casually achieved a pentakill on the computer. He had not done it for a long time, so he had to take care of Xiao Tsong's mood. The number of viewers in the live broadcast room wasn't as high as when he hosted the Throne Challenge, but it was still maintained at more than 2 million viewers. For an extremely unprofessional online live streamer who didn't care about his work, having more than 2 million viewers was already considered a phenomenal number. When Qin Guang was talking, he did not turn off the microphone. He did not deliberately avoid anyone. Lu Xiaoyang sighed. It's like this. We offended someone. An excellent employee would never say that the boss was in the wrong, even if he knew that the boss had made a mistake. He would take the blame first. The word "we" had a very rich connotation. Fang Tianyu sorted out a document from behind him and put it in Qin Guang's hand. He said, "CEO Qin, this is the information on several top masters of Smith jewelry. They are really good and they have been immersed in handicrafts for many years. They are internationally renowned. Although it happened in a hurry, they did come prepared." Qin Guang did not even look at the information. Instead, he silently finished the last team battle, destroyed the opponents, and led his teammates to take down the opponent's base. Only then did he look back at the crowd, and then he switched to the bullet screen. The viewers in the bullet screen were obviously very interested in the story. It sounded like there was an inside story, very exciting and very explosive. Chapter 679. Who's so arrogant as to snipe Brother Almighty? Smith Jewelry? What's that for? I heard from my cousin who's studying abroad that it's a very famous old jewelry company. It's very large and famous for its handmade jewelry. Really? Why would they want to make things difficult for Brother Almighty? Snipe what? Don't you know? Haven't you seen Brother Almighty's Weibo? He's going to the Guinness conference tomorrow. Compete in what? Dota? Who dares to compete with him? No, it's sharpening pencils. F***CK. This is so F***king boring. Sharpening pencils? It's probably a variant of handicraft? Is boring just thinking about it? It's boring. I don't think so. I've watched Guinness before. It's quite exciting. And someone actually dares to snipe Brother Almighty. Don't you think it's interesting? It makes sense. That's why I don't watch Guinness. I'll support it this time? I agree with you. Don't blindly worship Brother Almighty. I just checked the information. The people from Smith Jewelry are very powerful, super powerful. Really? I'll check it out too. *CK, they're really powerful. *CK. Brother Almighty is in danger this time. Is it really that scary? Really? There are several world champions in the handicraft world. It's dangerous. Is Brother Almighty going to kneel this time? Kneel your sister. Brother Almighty will kneel? Have you forgotten the painful lessons of those people before? Have you forgotten everyone who thought he would kneel? Those who wanted to live stream themselves eating 10 kilograms of *T, streaking naked, whatever they did, didn't they all kneel in the end? There's still some truth to it. Alright, let's wait for the show. Brother Almighty is invincible. Overlord of spring and autumn. Unify the world. Invincible in the universe. Dominate the outland. For the Lich King. Gradually, the comments started to harmonize with one side supporting Qin Guang. After all, most of those watching the stream were Qin Guang's fans. As for the haters and haters? Under the dual attacks of the extremely diligent moderators and super administrators, these people all lived on a long list of banned people. They would kill anyone they saw, and their IPs would be permanently blocked without batting an eye. Qin Guang's livestream was also known as the Tomb of the Rhythm Dog. No other livestream had ever been as diligent as the Rhythm Dog. Even the Rhythm team, who were paid by him, did not accept his work. Damn, he was too diligent. The cost of registering a new account was too high. After all, his real audience was already enough to keep the bullet screen exploding for a long time. He really did not need a Rhythm Dog to increase his popularity. Now, he simply set the bullet screen to only LV5 and above audience members, but it was still useless. The bullet screen was still filled with snowflakes. There was even a legend circulating on Bamboo platform. Those who were qualified to post colorful bullet screens in the live broadcast room of Almighty Superman were the real tycoons. They were diehard fans who had given gifts of more than 5,000 yuan. After the bullet comments were in sync, Qin Guang pointed at the screen and turned to look at the four of them. Did you see that? I have so many fans supporting me. They trust me so much. How can I lose? I can't afford to lose, even for the more than 2 million fans in the livestream room. So, no matter what that fat bitch is going to do or what kind of challenge mode it is, it doesn't matter. I don't care because I must win. And I must win. Although they knew he was talking nonsense, and the blessing of fans' spiritual strength only existed in hot-blooded comics, the fans in the livestream room were still very happy. They started to send gifts crazily again. It was even more ferocious than when he used the Rampage Pentakill. Yu Hong and the other three had no choice. The boss was acting tough. What could the employees do? They had to bow down and worship him. Yes, that's right. President Chen has never lost. It's the same this time. I don't care what kind of fighters the fat bitch has called. Buttface reacted the fastest. As a pioneer paparazzi who had been with Zhuo Wei for so many years, he was really good at flattering people. Fang Qianyu said weakly, but the masters of Smith are really... Before he could finish his words, Lu Xiaoyang poked his waist fiercely. He immediately changed his words. President Chen is invincible. Yu Hong and Su Li couldn't stand this group of people anymore. They ran out of the livestream room and disappeared from the livestream room as soon as possible. After comforting his employees, Qin Guang asked them to leave. Then he sat back in front of the computer and started another round of one-on-one games. He snapped his fingers calmly at the camera. Brothers and sisters, did you hear that? Tomorrow I will participate in the recording of the so-called Guinness show. It will be broadcasted in a few days. I want to give you a warning in advance. Well, I hope you can support me in front of the TV and help me promote the show. I don't know much about Smith's Jewelry and I don't want to know much about them. I don't know how powerful their people are. But I can promise you that no matter who they send, I will win without any shame, okay? I heard that the audience rating of the Guinness show is less than 1%. Let's make a plan. If you can help me promote the show, the audience rating can reach 3%. That will be about 9 million people. I will draw 1,000 yuan cash prizes on Weibo. How about that? To Qin Guang, money wasn't as important as faith points. In order to promote the Guinness conference, he had spared no effort. The more people watch the show, even those who are not interested in sharpening pencils, as long as they are convinced by his godly skills, they will be able to provide faith points. If 1 million yuan can help him reach the peak of sharpening pencils, it will be worth it. Although the internet celebrity economy is booming, and the net worth of internet celebrities is rising, Qin Guang is the only one who dares to take out 1 million yuan for a lucky draw. He is rich, willful, and unreasonable. For the sake of fame, the old man is willing to go all out. To be honest, although his live broadcast time was not fixed, every time he broadcast he would bring the audience a great visual enjoyment. Even if it was just a solo ladder, he could still play it to his heart's content. Today was originally just an ordinary live broadcast, but he made such a pretentious trailer, which really made the audience's hearts surge with emotions. I don't know why, but we just like your arrogant and condescending attitude, yet others can't do anything about it. Just because of your face, we can't help but want to give you a gift. Halfway through the game, the promotion for women came up again. Qin Guang is going to play the role of a retired boxer who runs a handicraft shop. In the movie, he will not use a stunt double. He will do it himself, trying to make the movie as realistic as possible. Putting aside his acting skills, Qin Guang is so focused. He trained hard for the movie, and now he is going to challenge the Guinness World Record. It is hard to find a male lead like him. Originally, the movie Women has attracted enough attention these days. Once the promotion for the movie keeps up, the audience in the live broadcast room jumped up again out of thin air. The effect is even better when both sides work together. Xiao Tsong is very proud in his heart. Other live broadcast platforms have to work hard, poach people everywhere, create all kinds of gimmicks, and even take the risk of letting the female hosts in the platform sell their bodies just to attract more popularity. However, the effect is like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. They can't make ends meet all year round, and they are all losing money doing the platform. But My Bamboo live broadcast, since it is on the list with Qin Guang, the big tree in the industry, it is going to become the best in the industry. Yes, that's right. In many people's eyes, I, Chang Xiaotsong, am a loafer. My private life is also very messy. Without my dad, I am nothing. Before I created the Bamboo platform, I relied on my dad and his think tank to guide me in my investments. That's how I barely made any progress. Even my graduation certificate from an Ivy League school abroad was obtained by luck. I am not particularly talented in business and I am not a good person. But the best decision I made in the first half of my life is to be the first to go to the 5 capitals after smelling the smell of blood on Qin Guang's body. Through Zhongbai, I got in touch with Qin Guang. Thinking about it, he silently clicked the mouse and bought 1,000 Manchu Han Imperial Feast for Qin Guang from his own pocket. 1 Manchu Han Imperial Feast is worth 500 yuan. When Qin Guang got off the broadcast, he looked at the statistics of the gifts backstage. Well, it is really a coincidence. The other side casually promised to draw 1 million yuan. In the end, I only broadcast for less than 3 hours and the gifts added up to 1.01 million yuan. I have broken even in advance. Why are there so many rich people today? When he returned to the broadcast room, he looked at the number 1 fan ranking for today. Well, it was actually Xiao Tsong. Qin Guang silently sent a message to Xiao Tsong and then went offline to pack up. As for the so-called team behind Mrs. Smith, he really did not care. He did not understand where Mrs. Smith got the courage to play this challenge mode. Poor mortal, you and your subordinates do not understand the realm of gods, okay? Do you think I am just an internet celebrity who relies on hype? Do you think I do not have real skills? The ignorant are really fearless. They must not have watched my videos properly. They have no idea what kind of existence they are challenging. Qin Guang did not guess wrong. Although his early videos had more or less a little influence abroad, the master-level employees of the jewelry company were not netizens. Most of their time was spent working and earning money, so they did not pay much attention to the hot topics on the internet. It was understandable that they did not know the power of an almighty Superman. As for Mariana Smith, although she also paid attention to celebrities and male models, most of her attention was on finding her own male idol. She really did not think that all the employees in her company would lose to a Chinese male artist. Mariana lay on the magnificent golden bed, letting the 2 male models who had been hired with a lot of money go up and down around her plump body. Her eyes were fixed on her cell phone until the live broadcast screen went black. Then she turned off the live broadcast with a gloomy face and patted the square-faced male model beside her. What did he say about me just now? Dear Mary, he just said that he is not afraid of the challenge of your company's employees. The male model did not dare to translate Qin Guang's fat woman. Unexpectedly, although Mrs. Smith did not understand Chinese, she had a deep impression of the pronunciation of the words fat woman. Subconsciously, she felt that it was not something good. What is Sfibo? He said it many times. This is probably his mantra. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me what he means. Mrs. Smith's face turned cold. The male model saw that he could not hide it anymore, so he said carefully, Dear Mrs. Smith, This is an insulting word. He is saying that your body is too fat. Mrs. Smith was angry. How am I fat? I'm so slim. I can only be called plump. Because of her anger, the fat all over her body was shaking like waves. The two male models suppressed the discomfort in their hearts. Yes, ma'am, you are indeed plump. I have never been humiliated like this. My employees will get justice for me. Mariana took out her cell phone again. I have decided to invite my friend here. A few minutes later, she hung up the phone in satisfaction. At the same time, a middle-aged man sat up from the bed with a bitter smile. He was about to pack his luggage and fly to Yenjing from Tokyo. Hiroto, where are you going? The middle-aged man named Hiroto Aoyama sighed. Mrs. Smith just called and said that she needs my help. I have to take a plane to Yenjing in half an hour. That disgusting fat woman? Don't talk about the boss of Smith's Jewelry like that. If it were not for her, I would still be a beggar performing acrobatics on the street. Hiroto, don't look at yourself like that. You have the most flexible hands in the world. Hiroto Aoyama looked at his slightly deformed and slender fingers, and the bitter smile on his face became thicker. How could he have the heart to tell his beloved wife what kind of training he had received in Ninja Valley in order to obtain these hands? He had once been known as the #1 genius in Ninja Canyon, but in the end he had been reduced to performing on the street. It was because of this unbearable experience that he cherished everything he had now, including the world-famous title of Ghost Hand. As his wife had said, Hiroto Aoyama's hands were recognized as the world's most skillful hands. His artistic level might not be as good as the masters of Smith's Jewelry, but when it came to the level of dexterity, he would never lose to anyone. Damn you, Qingguang. Just you wait until you're begging me before getting trampled by me. Mariana's face flushed red as she cursed. She opened her mouth to scream, but in the end she couldn't. She kicked the male model who was squatting in front of her off the floor. You piece of sh*t. I didn't feel anything at all. The two male models almost burst into tears. Your flesh is wrinkled. We can't beat you even if we do everything we can. What? Hiroto Aoyama is also participating in the Guinness conference this afternoon? Early in the morning, Lu Xiaoyang had just opened his sleepy eyes when he was shocked by this explosive news. He was so sleepy that he woke up. What are you doing? Can't you be quieter? Can't you let me have a good night's sleep? Fang Qianyu's voice came from the side. Lu Xiaoyang was stunned for a few seconds. Then he screamed in pain, Ah! Why are you in my bed? Chapter 680. Fang Qianyu was so scared that he rolled off the bed. He propped himself up and said, What are you screaming for? Didn't President Chen occupy your room last night? Did you come to my room to sleep? Oh, I see. But why didn't you wear underwear? LV Xiaoyang shouted again. Fang Qianyu shrugged. You didn't wear underwear either. They stayed there for a few seconds. Holy sh*t. F***cku. It took them 10 minutes to recover from the horrible illusion. They clenched their buttocks subconsciously when they walked to make sure they were not fatally injured. However, it was useless. They were always suspicious. After all, no one could remember what they would do when they fell asleep. Later, check if there's any peppermint smell on your penis. Fang Qianyu said. LV Xiaoyang was confused. What? I used Ma Yinglong last night. If something happened, it would smell, Fang Qianyu said confidently. Thank God. Thank you. After a while, Yu Hong was also shocked by the news that Hiroto Aoyama was going to participate in the Guinness World Cup. Unlike Smith's employees, Ghost Hand Hikaru Aoyama was someone who truly stood at the top of the industry. In the past few years, he had appeared as a guest performer in various places around the world. The skills he displayed were not magic, but they were better than magic. His hands were fast, accurate, and ruthless. He could even carve a grain of rice into a miniature sculpture of a person in a few seconds. President Chen, what should we do now? We are in big trouble. LV Xiaoyang wanted to slap the table. Chen Guang was still very calm, which made him very anxious. Chen Guang drank a few mouthfuls of porridge and put down the bowl slowly. Do you know what I like most about you, Buttface? What? I like how surprised you are, because the more you can't keep your composure, the more unfathomable I seem. Holy sh*t. Yu Hong, who was watching from the side, also felt that all his years of cultivation had gone to waste. In the face of CEO Chen like this, he really could not maintain a calm state of mind. Alright, I'll go alone for today's recording. Remember your tasks. I hope that you guys can complete the piano performance today. Don't doubt my ability. Just do what I tell you to do as fast as you can, and that'll be fine. I really don't have the patience to instill any more ideas in you. You just need to believe in one thing. I never speak nonsense and I never fight a battle I'm not confident of winning. Furthermore, I will never lose. As for the rest of you, you just need to follow the guidelines I set in the beginning and do your best to complete the task I gave you. You just need to build a stage for me to display my skills. Frankly speaking, I'm not very satisfied with all of your performances so far. With that, Qin Guang got up and left. He almost never spoke harshly to these company leaders, but this time he was really a little impatient. It doesn't matter if others doubt me, but since you guys want to be my employees, then you have to blindly worship me. Every time you waste questioning me, you're dragging me down. Guys, I hope you can understand my painstaking efforts. If you want to keep up with my pace, you have to abandon basic common sense and have crazy superstitions about me. Of course, these things might seem too ridiculous in the eyes of ordinary people, but it didn't matter. Qin Guang was confident that he could take them on a flight twice, and they would naturally understand the reason behind it. He would use this Guinness conference and women as an opportunity to settle these two things. Needless to say, they would start to doubt their lives. Co Qin is angry. Looking at Qin Guang's back, Lu Xiaoyang sighed. Fang Qianyu lit a cigarette and began to feel melancholy. Su Li, on the other hand, took out a mirror calmly. He felt that one of his eyebrows was crooked. Yu Hong was silent. Qin Guang's way of doing things was too different from Tang Xiaokai's. They were both young men, but Tang Xiaokai was strict and meticulous in his work. He relied on his amazing talent to do whatever he wanted on Wall Street, and he was the trendsetter of the financial era. Qin Guang, on the other hand, did not play by the rules. To put it nicely, it was unconstrained. To put it bluntly, he did things as he pleased. He did not have a plan, and it could even be said that he was reckless. From the beginning, Yu Hong did not approve of Qin Guang's policy of not caring about the business plan first, and instead he only wanted to promote himself. This was too much of a conflict with his outlook as a manager of Tangjia Foundation. However, he did not object to it. Although he was sent by Tang Xiaokai to work for Qin Guang, he understood the logic of the workplace. One man cannot be a second master. Regardless of whether Qin Guang's decision was right or wrong, he had made a decision, and he was responsible for executing it. Even if Qin Guang brokerage was screwed up in the end, he could just return to Tangjia Foundation. Anyway, didn't Boss Tang say that he was not afraid of losing money? Compared to others, Yu Hong, who was in his 40s, was no longer young. He could not fit in with the relatively young Fang Qianyu and Lu Xiaoyang's style, but it did not matter. A company needed someone who could maintain his composure, and Yu Hong, who was in charge of the administrative department, felt that he was suitable to play such a role. However, when Qin Guang arrived in Beijing, he obtained 150 million yuan in endorsement fees at lightning speed. He did not do anything, and the other party transferred all the money to him. Yu Hong was especially confused. Boss Qin, didn't you say that you would not make money first, and that you would rather lose money to promote your general policy? Alright, when he finally accepted Qin Guang's unimaginable ability to make money, and after going through a lot of trouble with Tang Xiaokai and Su Li, they changed the shares of Qin Guang brokerage and transferred 150 million yuan into their account. However, Qin Guang threw 120 million yuan into a movie that was destined to fail. These few days, Yu Hong felt that life was full of ups and downs, and if he did not have heart disease, he would have been in the hospital. I have already contacted the National Gallery of Art about the piano performance. They have a free day next week, which is on August 30th. If there is no problem, let's do it on that day, Fang Qianyu said. Lu Xiaoyang nodded. Then it's settled. Old Fang and old Yu, go and contact the venue's ticketing service. I will get someone to post a speech online to warm up the audience. Boss Qin is right, we have to speed up the pace. Yu Hong sighed in his heart. It's good to be young. You guys are so careless. The Guinness conference was not a live show. After all, this show was full of accidents, and if it was a live show, there would be all kinds of uncontrollable accidents. If it was a recorded broadcast, it could avoid accidents, and at the same time, the effect of the show could be controlled through post-editing. After lunch, Qin Guang rushed to the central TV building. Other than his blind confidence, he was very concerned about the recording of today's show. He had spent a lot of effort to get this done, so he had to do it properly and beautifully. Today's Guinness conference was also very important. It was related to whether he could increase the sharpening world's faith value from less than 2,000 a day to more than 40,000 in one go. After all, he was still nearly 30 custom-made training sessions away from perfecting his body, and the gap in faith value was infinitely large. As for Mrs. Smith's harassment and revenge, he really did not care. He crossed his legs and waited downstairs. He took out his phone and browsed the news on the internet. From time to time he would look at Weibo. The storm caused by women did not fade with the passage of time. Instead, it became an old pot of wine, getting stronger and stronger. Now, not only did Qin Guang have to act, but he had also become an investor. In the eyes of some people, this news naturally meant that he had more control over the film than a normal rookie actor should have. It was a typical case of people who paid out of their own pocket to make a film to support themselves. Even Deng Xiaojiang, who had a good reputation, was dragged down and became a villain. This made Deng Xiaojiang very angry, but he could not refute it. Things had unknowingly become like this, and it was indeed a little out of Big Beard's control. He had no choice but to cover his head. He did not care about the outside world, he only wanted to focus on preparing for the film. The male lead had already given up, so he would make up for his shortcomings from another angle. If he really messed up, he could just work hard on post-editing to save as much as possible. Qin Guang had been watching these news for a long time and had been scolded so many times that he was becoming more and more numb. Anyway, no one believed what he said now. Getting angry with those online trolls over the internet would ruin his mood for no reason. If he could, Qin Guang would even want to start shooting the film today and release it tomorrow. However, this matter still had to be done according to Big Beard Deng's timetable. Preparing for a movie was not a gathering to have a meal and play cards. With just a phone call, everyone would gather and start working. Everything had to be coordinated by Big Beard. Quietly closing Weibo, Qin Guang closed his eyes for a moment and said in his heart, "No matter how turbulent the outside world is, I will not move. When the spring flowers bloom, I will go out for a walk with a donkey or a horse. People will naturally understand." Forget it. If you call the person who is scolding you to come to you now, I bet 10 kingdoms that you can strangle him alive. Liuli's voice came from the heavenly Holy Grail. How do you know? Qin Guang asked curiously. Liuli said angrily, "If it weren't for the Holy Grail's sturdiness, you could have crushed the cup with the cover." "Yo, Mr. Qin, so early. Let's go up together?" Qin Guang was about to argue with Liuli when the leader of the Central TV program team, whom he had met at the dinner table yesterday, suddenly appeared in front of him and greeted him warmly. "Sure." Qin Guang put the cup back in his bag and walked up with the man. "By the way, Mr. Qin, it's that Mrs. Smith from yesterday?" the man asked tentatively while carefully looking at Qin Guang's face. "What's wrong? Challenge mode? It doesn't matter. Let her be." Qin Guang said casually. "It's not that simple. Maybe Mr. Qin is not very clear about Smith Jewelry's reputation in the industry. If it's really a challenge mode and you lose, I'm afraid we can only cut this part to avoid some adverse effects on you." At this point, the Central TV program team had made up their mind. Since they were stuck in the middle, they didn't want to offend either side. The safest way was to directly cut the program and pretend that nothing had happened. Qin Guang became anxious when he heard this. If they really cut it, not only would his initial investment be wasted, where else could he find such a suitable platform to promote his boring pencil sharpening skills? Other than the Guinness Conference, where else could he find so many bored audiences to watch him sharpen pencils? No. We definitely can't cut it. There's no need to cut it. Just rest assured. I won't lose. I really won't lose. Waving his hand, Qin Guang spoke without any hesitation. The Central TV leader was helpless. There was something written on the tip of the pencil. "Chief Wang, we have a magnifying glass here," the receptionist reminded him kindly. Chapter 681. Shaolin, this looks like a statue of a person? It was rare for Chief Wang to be together with the receptionist. He was usually very careful with his image and had to keep a distance from these young and beautiful female colleagues, but this was too strange for him to understand. The receptionist named Shaolin shook her head and gasped. "Chief Wang, this is Robot Zero, the biological armored combat robot that Ling Boli piloted in the EVA." "Robot Zero? Iva. What's that?" Chief Wang, who was in his 50s, would not understand these young people. Anyway, it's a robot. Shaolin was not in the mood to explain the two-dimensional knowledge to Chief Wang. She only looked at the magnifying glass and sighed. "Oh my God, this isn't just a simple likeness. Oh my God. The lines, the joints, the armor, it's like it's alive. If it could be colored, it would look exactly like the figurine I just bought." As the girl spoke, she pointed at the figurine in the corner of the office table. The figurine was about 10 centimeters tall and was officially authorized by Bandai. It was imported and had excellent workmanship. In that instant, Qin Guang had clearly carved it according to the figurine. Chief Wang shook his head blankly. Impossible. This is impossible. Kobayashi was getting more and more confused. The more she looked at it, the more incredulous she felt. Her figurine was assembled from hundreds of parts. How could it be cut into the exact same shape? Even the external armor on her right forearm had the exact same shape. Scary. Shaolin thought about it and said, I'll go get a microscope from the program team next door. Give me a few minutes. 10 minutes later, Chief Wang and Shaolin stared at the image taken by the high-powered microscope on the computer, dumbfounded. The entire figurine was about 3 millimeters tall. Other than the lack of color and the fact that it was pure black, it was exactly the same as Shaolin's figurine. Chief Wang's hand holding the pencil was shaking. He could not understand the principle behind this even if he was beaten to death. How did he do it? He clearly just slashed it with a single slash. Why did he do that? Maybe it's because he's really God? Shaolin's eyes were shining. She clenched her fists and prayed silently. May God bless me. If my future boyfriend's fingers are even 1/10 as nimble as mine, my life will be worth it. When Manager Wang arrived at the players' break room, his mind was muddled. He was still holding the pencil in his hand. No matter how he tried to construct a picture in his mind, he had no idea how Qin Guang had managed to carve out Machine Zero in one go. Qin Guang looked at him and knew that he had achieved his goal. He took the pencil back from him. Director Wang, don't ask me. I won't tell you anything. The pencil was given to me by your employee, and the knife is also hers. You only need to understand one thing. I used less than a second to sharpen the pencil like this. Now, do you still want to discuss Demon Hand Hikari with me? Chief Wang shook his head like a rattled drum. Don't think about it. Don't think about it at all. Qin Guang pressed the tip of the pencil on the chair and flattened it under Chief Wang's pained gaze. So, can we start recording the show on time? Chief Wang's eyes widened. What a pity. Such a perfect piece of art was crushed by him just like that. He must be torturing and taking revenge on me, a patient with OCD. Damn it. After waiting for a few seconds, Chief Wang came back to his senses. He looked at his watch and realized that there were only 10 minutes left before the official start of the recording. He hurried to the director's room and shouted, Everyone get into position. Don't King dawdle. Qin Guang smiled and shrugged. He thought to himself, Bro, how can I explain it to you? You might think it was just one knife, but in that instant I swung it at least 100 times. Unlike other skills, the seemingly useless pencil sharpening skill was, in a sense, the most unreasonable skill that Qin Guang had mastered so far. Because when he achieved the achievement in the World in the Cup, his arm was under the special blessing of the World in the Cup. Even in the outside world, as long as he held a pen in one hand and a knife in the other, his whole body would be blessed by the mysterious power of the Holy Grail. After mastering the high-frequency vibration of the World of Kirin's arm, his pencil sharpening ability was even further enhanced. It was even better than when he was training in the World in the Cup. Once he started to sharpen, the ability he displayed was not a human ability at all. I don't usually show off. When I do, I scare myself to tears, okay? In other words, as long as the pencil was replaced with something of a different thickness, his trick would not work. But this time, the project of the Guinness Challenge was pencil sharpening. It was impossible for him to lose, okay? He couldn't lose even if he wanted to. Qin Guang turned his head and looked at the group of foreigners sitting not far away. If he guessed correctly, this group of people should be the master-level employees of Smith Jewelry. The oldest among them should be over 50 years old, and the youngest should be 30 years old. The yellow man sitting in the middle, surrounded by the stars, should be the Japanese Hiroto Aoyama. Looking at his slender fingers, his muscles and bones were different from ordinary people's. He did have some amazing kung fu skills. The name Ghost Hand was not for nothing. If it was another project, Qin Guang might not necessarily win. But since it was pencil sharpening, he could only apologize. Sensing his provocative gaze, Hiroto Aoyama and the group of Smith Jewelry employees all turned to look at him. That's him, the reckless challenger. Mr. Aoyama, Mrs. Smith wants us to win more quickly. If you win the competition in the end, Mrs. Smith will consider handing over all the business in Japan to you. Hiroto Aoyama nodded. I won't let Mrs. Smith down. He couldn't help but recall the last time he performed on the street in Tokyo's underground tunnel. Everything looked the same as before. The dim light in the underground tunnel scattered in the long tunnel. There was no warmth, only bone-chilling cold. The homeless man curled up on the ground beside him, wrapped in a thick coat, was also shivering in the cold. Frantic mosquitoes buzzed around the light on the ceiling, hitting the lampshade and making popping sounds, as if drowning out the growling in their stomachs. When he was at his most desperate, Mrs. Smith came down from the sky like an angel and asked him to carve a head for her using rice on the table. He was shocked by the gorgeous clothes on the angel. His fingers had never been so agile. It usually took him 8 seconds to finish sketching a statue, but this time he finished it in 5 seconds. From then on, Mrs. Smith, who had the body of an angel, opened a window to his gloomy life. Although some of the memories made him sick, the results were always gratifying. Most of what he had today was thanks to Mrs. Smith. So, today, even if it was just to make her happy, he had to win quickly. With that in mind, he began to rub his fingers subconsciously. The eyes of the employees of Smith Jewelry next to him were involuntarily attracted to Hiroto Aoyama's fingers. It was really amazing. As expected of Mr. Aoyama. His skills didn't show any signs of decline because of his age. Instead, they were getting better. Marianne Smith, as the chairman of Guinness Asia Pacific, was already seated in the guest seat in the recording hall. Powell and another staff member sat on either side of her, one on the left and the other on the right. Usually she wouldn't sit in this seat. She wasn't even interested in watching a normal program recording, but today was obviously a special day. Mrs. Smith was half lying on the leather chair in the guest seat, moving her body with some difficulty. Powell, when Qin Guang loses in the challenge mode, go and tell him that if he doesn't make any compromises, the door of Guinness will be closed to him forever. Also, you'd better tell him that I, Marianne, have a wide circle of friends. Many celebrities in the Wuxia entertainment circle are my friends. He will definitely pay for his arrogance yesterday. Powell was extremely disgusted, but he put on a respectful face and said, "Yes, esteemed chairman." After waiting for another 10 minutes, the audience entered the hall one after another, and the seats were all filled up. Usually, these people signed up online and were selected through a series of behind-the-scenes operations. Their task was to clap and scream when necessary to ensure the effect of the program. However, this time the audience seemed to be a little restless. The lights in the studio had dimmed, but the whispers in the crowd didn't stop for a long time. Director Wang had to shout into the microphone to make these people calm down a little. When the studio finally returned to normal, Director Wang turned off the microphone and said with a straight face, "What the hell? Why are the quality of the audience this time so low?" The staff member next to him quickly explained, "Director Wang, it's my fault. There were too many people signing up online this time. When we selected people, the system made a mistake. We chose real audience members." Director Wang wanted to kick him. Why didn't he inform him earlier that something like this had happened? If they weren't experienced audience members, the situation today would have gone out of control. In his mind, he thought of the zero machine that Qin Guang had carved out with a knife. If he were an ordinary audience member, he might not be able to control his emotions when witnessing such a miracle with his own eyes. In the audience seats, 17 or 18 bald men gathered together, and they seemed to be very eye-catching. Yes, that's right, Qin Guang's old acquaintance, the bald president of the Anti-Light Alliance, had brought his brothers to support him. This old man must have mastered some special skills. As long as Qin Guang went on stage in public, he would definitely appear unshakably, rain or shine. Even if Qin Guang changed the venue of his appearance from the 5 capitals to Yanjing, it still wouldn't stop him from chasing after his idol. The people around him were naturally his comrades who were as close as brothers. In fact, hundreds of people in the entire Anti-Light Alliance had signed up. However, because Qin Guang had publicized this during the live broadcast, the audience registration for the Guinness conference, which no one cared about before, suddenly exploded, and the competition became extremely fierce. The total number of people signing up online was more than 200,000, but less than 1,000 people were selected. Excluding the 500 people who had been manipulated under the table, the actual selection rate was less than 1%. On the surface, the success rate was also only 1%. Even with the president's mysterious blessing, the entire Anti-Light Alliance had more than 800 people, and only about 20 people had entered. In fact, this was already very strong. As expected of the president, our success rate is as high as 1%. It must be the president's spirit in heaven that is blessing us. The vice president looked very excited. He was a fanatical supporter of Qin Guang, but he didn't have the opportunity to listen to Qin Guang's teachings. Otherwise, he would have easily become a noble believer. The president stepped on his foot. "Shut your crow's mouth. I'm not dead yet. Are you really hoping for me to die so that you can usurp the throne? No, no, no. President, I definitely didn't think that way. If not for your blessing, at most, only 5 of us could have entered, the vice president said sincerely. The other bald members also looked at the president with gratitude. The bald president silently wiped away his tears. As a president who lived among a group of die-hard Qingguang fans, it was really tough. He really didn't understand why the Anti-Light Alliance was getting further and further away from his original goal. There must be something wrong with the way it was opened. What? Your president is so powerful? Our whole class is Brother Allrounder's fan. We heard that Brother Allrounder would be participating this week, so we signed up together. In the end, I was the only one selected. We are so pitiful. Someone overheard their conversation and became interested in the Anti-Light Alliance. The members immediately started to show off. Of course. We have a total of 800 brothers that signed up, and 20 were selected. Do you see our heads? Do you see our president? Brother Allrounder is also bald. This is his summoning. There is a mysterious bond between us and Brother Allrounder. Brother, are you also a fan of Brother Allrounder? Why don't you hurry up and join us? Must I shave my head? But I'm a girl. I'm sorry. We are the righteous Anti-Light Alliance. We never accept female members. I heard that there are girls in the Pink Light Alliance. You can contact them. Can I ask my boyfriend to join you? Yes, but you have to remind him not to pay the membership fee. He must be careful of our president. We are a non-profit organization. The bald president silently wiped away his tears. He seemed to have understood something. His heart ached so much that he couldn't breathe. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Zhu Jun. I am your host, Dong Qing. Welcome to the Guinness Conference. The male and female hosts walked out from both sides of the stage and stood in the center. The recording of the Guinness Conference began. The audience suddenly tensed up. The show was about to begin. The staff in the contestants' lounge shouted, "The contestants whose names I have called, please follow me to the back of the stage. The recording has begun. Thank you for your cooperation." Qin Guang turned his head and exchanged glances with Hiroto Aoyama. He grinned and walked to the front. Chapter 682. Zhu Jun, do you know why our Guinness conference is getting more and more popular? The female host, Dong Qing, smiled. Zhu Jun pretended to be at a loss. Why? It's because we don't have to worry about food and clothing anymore. Our material life is more abundant, and the people have more time to focus on the spiritual life. Dong Qing kept Dong Shuebing in suspense. What does the spiritual life have to do with the Guinness conference? We are challenging the limits of humanity. Zhu Jun and Dong Qing echoed each other. Dong Qing blinked. You don't understand. Everyone has their own little Superman in their heart. Only when they don't lack anything in their life can this little Superman jump out and think about the things that they used to be good at or wanted to do but couldn't do. You don't understand. Everyone has their own little Superman in their heart. For example, when I was young, I was very good at spinning the pen. When I twirled the pen on my fingers, it was like a flower blooming. I was taught a lesson by my teacher because of this. Now I am old and there is no teacher to look after me. But my hand is also stiff and I can't turn the pen anymore. Dong Qing purposely pouted and put on a pitiful look. Zhu Jun nodded. Isn't that right? Your teacher really killed a genius. If you practice hard, you might even be able to participate in the Olympic Games. We don't need to think about the Olympic Games. They don't have this event, but we are here in Guinness. What's our mission? Challenge the limits. Surpass yourself. Write your brilliant ideas into the Guinness Book. The two hosts said in unison. After that, Zhu Jun changed to a high-pitched voice. Next, let's welcome our first challenger, Qin Guang. What he wants to challenge is something that all of us have done since we were young. He will tell us that sharpening pencils is also a skill. Dong Qing also said. That's right. I don't have the Olympic Games for spinning pens, but Qin Guang has our Guinness conference for sharpening pencils. Everyone, let's witness a miracle. As the music started, Qin Guang, who was wearing a straw hat, walked out from the back of the stage and went straight to the center of the stage. The straw hat couldn't hide his devastatingly handsome face, but it could hide the new bandage on his head, making him look even more imposing under the spotlight. He looked like a divine soldier who had descended from the heavens. His handsomeness had reached a new realm, a new height. The above content was purely Qin Guang's personal fantasies. It was purely fictional. If there were any similarities, It must be the effects of his die-hard fans' beauty enhancement. Also, in order to make Qin Guang's challenge more convincing, we have invited 8 world-class craftsmen from the Guinness Association. They will compete with Qin Guang. There. Mr. Hiroto Aoyama, the ghost hand from Japan. He is the champion of 10 consecutive handicraft awards in Japan. He is also the holder of many world records. He can carve a grain of rice into a lifelike portrait in 5 seconds. Mr. Santos from Mexico. Is. Mr. Bell from Australia. Is. Mrs. Smith listened to the translator beside her translate and said unhappily, "Since when did it become an invitation for my people to compete with him on the same stage?" Powell quickly explained, "Mr. Chairman, please don't be angry. The program team of China television station has to consider the effect of the program. It's more reasonable to say it this way." Mrs. Smith nodded. "That's true. I can't let others know that I'm deliberately making things difficult for him." After a short while, accompanied by all kinds of background music, lighting and special effects, Qin Guang stood on the stage with a total of 8 so-called gatekeepers in the challenge mode. In front of them was a long table. In front of each of them was a total of 10 pencils, a total of 100 pencils, and 3 different sizes of pencil sharpeners. Qin Guang stood in the middle, and Hiroto Aoyama stood beside Qin Guang. The host was introducing the rules of the competition. Hiroto Aoyama subconsciously turned his head to look at Qin Guang. This poor guy. He looks quite good. He probably rejected Mrs. Smith's pursuit. How stupid. What's wrong with Mrs. Smith? Even if she felt disgusted at the time, wouldn't it be over if she closed her eyes and endured it? This was a life-changing opportunity that had fallen from the sky. She was the owner of Smith Jewelry with a net worth of $1 billion USD. She was the current heir of the famous Tepest family in Europe and America. Dong Qing explained in detail, "Ladies and gentlemen, the rules of our competition are very simple. Every contestant has a total of 5 minutes. If Qin Guang can sharpen the most Eiffel Towers in these 5 minutes, he will be recognized by Guinness as the best sharpener in the world. Please look at the big picture. This Eiffel Tower is qualified. From this angle, doesn't it look exactly like the tower in the picture? Of course it can't just be the appearance. Everyone look at the 4 legs of the tower. That's right, the bottom must be hollow." Zhu Jun exclaimed again, "My God, isn't this too difficult? Won't the tip of the pencil break if you're not careful?" Dong Qing nodded. "Of course it's difficult, but this is what Guinness strives for." "That's right. It's because it's difficult that we can challenge our limits. Now let's welcome the Guinness certifiers, Mr. Powell and Mr. Bloom, to the stage for the final verification." Zhu Jun waved his hand and the 2 certifiers, Powell and Bloom, who were sitting in the VIP seats, walked onto the stage with smiles on their faces. "Mr. Qin, it's not too late to change your mind." Powell pretended to check the pencil and knife in front of Qin Guang absent-mindedly. Qin Guang opened his mouth slightly and said in a low voice, "No, you can tell her exactly what I said. Just tell her that I think she's disgusting. You'll regret it. You don't know Mrs. Smith's reputation." Powell put down the pencil slowly and said with a gloomy face. Qin Guang rolled his eyes indifferently. "You don't know who I am, so don't talk nonsense. Get out of here." Powell's hand that was holding the pencil knife trembled violently. He really wanted to stab Qin Guang with the knife. What did he say just now? Powell had just sat down in the VIP seats with shaking hands when Mrs. Smith, who was unwilling to give up, asked. "He told me to get out of here." The camera was right on his face. Powell had no choice but to squeeze out a smile. Then he squeezed out this sentence. Mrs. Smith's face turned serious. "That B** starred. That's right, he's a B** starred." As the camera turned away, Powell immediately put on a fierce face and stared at Qin Guang. "Damn arrogant kid, just wait for your bad luck." Among the nearly 1,000 people in the audience that day, about 500 came for Qin Guang. Apart from a few anti-fans like the bald president, most of the others were fans of Qin Guang. Deep down, these people hoped that Qin Guang would win, but after hearing Zhu Jun and Dong Qing introduce the other 8 contestants, they were a little uncertain. In particular, Ghost Hand Hikaru Qingshan was too famous. Qin Guang was trying to break the world record, but Hikaru Qingshan already had several world records. Although the other contestants were not as famous as Hikaru Qingshan, they were still somewhat famous. The countdown had already started, but the whispers of the audience had not stopped. "Can you stop shaking your legs? My bones are about to fall apart." The bald president pushed the vice president beside him. "I can't help it. I'm too nervous. What if brother all-rounder loses? The vice president was worried. The bald president glared at him. Don't tease me. I used to look forward to him losing every day no matter what, even if he lost once. But when did he ever make me happy? The vice president and the other members of the Anti-Light Alliance suddenly understood. So, Mr. President, you're the one who trusts brother all-rounder the most out of all of us. You're indeed the president. The bald president's face stiffened. He cursed in his heart, I really can't be friends with you guys anymore. On the other side, the host's countdown had already begun. This was the first and perhaps the last international pencil sharpening competition, which was different from the usual big names, was about to officially begin. At the beginning, the camera wasn't focused on Chen Guang. Instead, it was focused on Hikaru Qingshan, the most famous contestant. At that moment, this world-renowned ghost hand had his eyes closed. His fingers were spread out and pressed lightly on the table. He seemed to have entered some kind of mysterious state. Those who were familiar with him knew that this ghost hand was getting serious. Only when he decided to go all out would he close his eyes and adjust his breathing. He was especially scary in this state. I must win. And I must win cleanly. Hikaru Qingshan muttered in his heart. Memories of when he was young and practicing ninjutsu and Ninja Canyon slowly surfaced in his mind. It was as if he had returned to his younger days. The ninja ki that was almost exhausted slowly surged up from his lower abdomen, through his arms and condensed on his hands. The host was still counting down. 3. The veins on Hikaru Qingshan's arms gradually appeared. 2. An invisible force was emitted from his fingers. 1. Hikaru Qingshan opened his eyes abruptly. On the big screen at the back of the studio, Hikaru Qingshan's eyes seemed to be glowing. He grabbed the pencil with lightning speed and picked up a pencil sharpener with his other hand. His mind was blank. The knife rose and fell and sawdust flew everywhere. Hikaru Qingshan's every knife was so precise that it was even more exquisite and faster than the processing machines made in Germany. In less than a second and a half, the pencil lead had been sharpened. With a shake of his right hand, the largest pencil sharpener was replaced with a second sharpener. Then, with 4 strokes, the outline of the Eiffel Tower appeared. His eyes were focused and his expression was solemn. He stared at the tip of his pen as if he was on a pilgrimage. This was the skill that he relied on to survive. He was extremely devout in his skills. Another second and a half passed, but the knife in his hand had been replaced with the smallest one, number 3. Ordinary people could not even see his movements with their naked eyes. Only the high-speed camera that was locked on Hikaru Qingshan's hands could capture the slight but high-frequency vibration of his right hand. The powder on the pencil lead flew out, and the 4 legs of the Eiffel Tower quickly took shape. His movements were so precise that the extremely fragile tip of the pen seemed so stable that there was no sign of it breaking. Mr. Qingshan is in great condition today, Powell said as he stared at the big screen. Mrs. Smith nodded with satisfaction. Of course. Mr. Qingshan never disappoints me. Qin Guang is dead meat. It's too late for him to beg for mercy now. Mrs. Smith grinned sinisterly. He has successfully angered me. Only the humblest of repentance can satisfy me. While the two of them were chatting, Hiroto Aoyama had finished sharpening his first pencil. He was very satisfied with his performance today. It only took him 5 seconds to sharpen the first pencil, and the whole process was as smooth as flowing water. He was confident that he could increase his speed to 4.5 seconds, or even faster. Later on, his speed might slow down again, but it did not matter. In 5 minutes, he could sharpen at least 50 pencils that met the standard. Although it looked so simple, the tip of the pen was extremely fragile. A slight mistake during the process would cause the tip to break easily, and all his previous efforts would be wasted. It was not something that an ordinary person could do. He did not even have the mood to look at Qin Guang's performance next to him. He knew that he represented the limit of human beings. As long as he continued to perform normally, no one would be a match for him. From time to time, there was a cracking sound coming from beside him. It sounded like Qin Guang had used too much force to sharpen the pencil. As Hikaru Qingshan began to sharpen the second pencil, he thought to himself, "You deserve it. Do you think we're playing with you? You're doomed from the moment you offended Mrs. Smith, okay? Even the other employees of Smith Jewelry are much better than you, okay?" Director Wang began to scold them in the director's room. "I told you to focus the camera on Qin Guang. Where are you filming? Are you an idiot?" The PD in charge of cutting the camera felt wronged. "Director Wang, I'm filming Qin Guang on the 3rd camera, but he's always sharpening the pen until it explodes. Why are we filming him? Look at how beautiful Hikaru, Qingshan and Santos are. The audience would definitely like to see a successful scene, right? Although Mr. Qin is a friend, he's in such a bad state today. If we film him, won't we be making him look bad? What do you know? If I tell you to film him, then film him. Otherwise, get out of my sight. While Director Wang scolded the unlucky main PD, he felt like he was the only one sober and pretentious when everyone else was drunk. What do you know? You all think that Qin Guang is done for, but do you know that although he looks like he's sharpening the pen until it explodes, he's actually sharpening the pen until it explodes? You've missed the key scene. How stupid. Hikaru Qingshan quickly went back to his state of not paying attention to what was happening outside the window. He began to sharpen the pen with all his might. This was his strongest state and he had never failed before. However, he did not know that the scene on the big screen behind him had unknowingly changed. Although there were still shots of him from time to time, most of the time, it was Qin Guang's personal close-up. In fact, Qin Guang looked quite bored at that moment. He seemed to have been using the smallest sharpener, the number 3. He repeated the same action mechanically, picking up a pen and swinging the knife at it. The tip of the pencil exploded. Then he put it on the table and immediately switched to another pencil. Compared to the others, Qin Guang's actions looked like child's play. He must have used too much force and broken the pen. At first, the audience was also confused. They did not understand why the program team had filmed Qin Guang in such an embarrassing scene. It was not until about a minute into the competition, when the high-definition camera zoomed in and began to give a close-up of Qin Guang's pencil that had exploded from sharpening, that the audience gasped. What was going on? What was that? A beautiful and neat, art-like miniature Eiffel Tower? Why did every pencil he casually threw on the table look like it had been sharpened successfully? Was it exactly the same as the previous example? What exactly happened? Didn't it look like it had exploded from the sharpening? Chapter 683. What the hell? Mrs. Smith immediately stood up from her seat. Cheating? He must have cheated. Powell and Bloom were also confused. They had carefully examined Qin Guang's pencils and knives, and there was no way they were specially prepared in advance. The audience was even more confused. Even the chairman of the Anti-Light Alliance, who was certain that Qin Guang would be able to show off, was also confused. Although I know he's going to win, can someone explain the theory to me? What the hell is going on? With one slash an Eiffel Tower appeared? A little explanation? What's this? The vice chairman thought for a long time. This is probably the realm of gods? Due to the unusually large number of non-professional audiences in the studio, most of these people who participated in the recording for the first time did not know the rules. Whispers rose and fell, intertwined with each other, and the buzzing sound gathered and formed a resonance, overwhelming the passionate soundtrack that was playing in the studio at this time, making the whole studio so noisy. Master Bell from Australia was the first to notice that something was wrong. He needed about 10 seconds to finish a pencil. It had been about a minute and a half since the start of the competition, and he had already finished 10 pencils. During a short pause, he could not help but look back at the big screen behind him. He happened to see a close-up of the pile of sharpened pencils that Qin Guang had placed on the table. What? Then he turned his head again and saw that there was only one set of pencils left in Qin Guang's hand. That was 10 pencils. F***CK. What happened? Has he finished 90 pencils? It's been less than 100 seconds since the start of the competition. Mr. Bell was scared out of his wits. He looked at Hiroto Aoyama again. Frankly speaking, Ghost Hand was indeed very strong. He had already finished more than 20 pencils, more than twice as fast as Bell himself. However, compared to Qin Guang, he was not at the same level at all. Hiroto Aoyama was still focused. His face shone with confidence. However, compared to Qin Guang next to him, the more confident he was, the more pathetic he looked. God, thought Bell, I must still be dreaming. Let me sleep for another hour so I won't have this ridiculous hallucination. Poor Mr. Aoyama, poor fellows, poor me. What kind of monster are we playing against? What was the principle behind this? In less than 10 seconds, Qin Guang had already put down the last pencil in his left hand. He raised his right hand and said loudly, I'm sorry, I finished sharpening all my pencils. Can you bring me another 200 pencils? Qin Guang's words were like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. Isato Aoyama was startled back to his senses. His hand trembled, and the tip of his sword even cut the tip of his left hand. He raised his head blankly and turned to look at Qin Guang. His eyes slowly focused and then fell on the 100 sharpened pencils in front of him. Baka. What is this? 100? Is it done? He raised his head to look at the countdown timer on the big screen. Only 100 seconds had passed. He then looked at the pencils in front of him. 23, which meant that he had sharpened one every 35 seconds. It was definitely an extraordinary performance. But what did this B** star do? Why is this happening? What happened? This is completely different from what I thought. Hisato Aoyama was stunned. He even forgot that he was in the middle of a competition. He subconsciously wanted to pick up Qin Guang's pencil and check it. However, Qin Guang slapped his hand away. Watch your hand. Don't touch my pen. Fearing that Hisato Aoyama could not understand him, Qin Guang even deliberately spoke in Japanese. Hisato Aoyama was stunned when he suddenly heard such standard Japanese. He then withdrew his hand in embarrassment and looked at his table. He kept reminding himself not to panic and not to be afraid. He was deliberately sharpening. He was just trying to scare me. At that moment, the host, Dong Qing, ran back to Qin Guang with a box of pencils. The spare pencils were placed on the small table next to her. They did not have to wait for long. Although he had already wasted more than 10 seconds, Qin Guang did not care at all. He picked up the pencils and continued sharpening. Alright, sharpening pencils was really boring. No matter how much he exaggerated, it was still the same. He picked up the pen with his left hand and raised it in front of him. Then he swung his right hand. The moment the tip of the knife and the tip of the pen touched each other, there was a brief pause. Then the tip of the pen exploded. He then threw the pen on the table and picked up another one. Bang! It exploded again. That was it. The repetitive process was really boring. It was really boring. It was not cool at all. It was so boring that even with special effects, there was no way to save it. Although ordinary people could not see his movements clearly, Hisato Aoyama was the ghost hand. As a former genius student of Ninja Canyon, his eyes were much sharper than ordinary people. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Qin Guang's pen. He hoped that Qin Guang was sharpening it randomly, but his emotions told him that it was impossible. In that instant, the powdery sawdust mixed with the black powder of the pen lead was too strange, too special. This was not the normal appearance of a damaged piece of paper. Wait a minute. The moment the tip of his knife touched the tip of the pen, his hand seemed to have become blurry. It was like the old CRT TV when the voltage was unstable. Qin Guang was about to put down the pen, but he felt uncomfortable being stared at by this guy. He turned around and looked at him. You don't want to play anymore, do you? Are you going to sharpen it yourself? Why are you staring at me? Beg me and I'll let you win. Are you bored? After that, Qin Guang ignored him and continued sharpening. This Hisato Aoyama is really pitiful. Ghost hand? He looks like he's scared to the point of peeing his pants. You can't say that. He's really good. Even the movement of sharpening a pencil is so smooth. Whose side are you on? Are you from China? F***ck, if I can change my nationality so easily, I'd really thank you. That mud blast is good, but he can't withstand Brother Almighty's 1/. F***ck, I don't understand what's going on. That's right. No matter how good Hisato Aoyama is, he's just an ordinary person. He's nothing. Brother Almighty's move is godlike in the game. The whispers in the audience grew louder, but this time Director Wang did not jump out to remind everyone to calm down. He knew that nothing he said would work. At most he could just silence them later. Hisato Aoyama clenched his fists tightly. He was thinking hard. I can't care about him anymore. I have to control my own pace. This must be an illusion. He must be playing with me. Hisato Aoyama shook his head fiercely, then continued sharpening with all his might. He did not notice that the other Smith Jewelry employees at the same long table had already put down their knives and pens. Instead, they turned their heads and stared blankly at the big screen behind them. No one was filming Hisato Aoyama anymore. The big screen was filled with Qin Guang's boring movements. Thanks to the new high-speed camera that the Guinness program team had just replaced, after a series of emergency adjustments, a frame-by-frame analysis that had been slowed down 100 times appeared on the big screen. From the moment the tip of Qin Guang's knife touched the tip of the pen to the moment the tip of the knife moved away, the scene, which had lasted less than 0.3 seconds, was stretched to 30 seconds. The audience could finally vaguely see the tip of the knife cutting through the wooden shell on the tip of the pen at an extremely fast speed, as if it was cutting through tofu. The tip of the knife moved back and forth, then moved back and forth again. At the same time, the pencil was spinning in his left hand. However, everything happened too fast. Qin Guang's movements were very small, but the frequency was very fast. That was why the wooden shell showed signs of being cut into powder and then falling apart. Then, with the help of Qin Guang, the regular tip of the pen broke free from the wooden shell and appeared in the air. The outline of the Eiffel Tower appeared in the air with 4 swishing sounds. What was truly terrifying was Qin Guang's movements. His hand vibrated at a high frequency again. The tip of the knife was pressed against the tip of the pen, and the lines of the Eiffel Tower's support frame quickly appeared. Every line was extremely clear and regular. Most importantly, this was a frame-by-frame analysis that had been sped up 100 times, but it still looked very fast on the screen. After 0.3 seconds, the hollow bottom of the tower was completely formed, and the perfect Eiffel Tower sculpture was fresh out of the oven. This meant that Qin Guang only needed 0.3 seconds to sharpen a pen, and most of the rest of the time was wasted on picking up and putting down the pen. When the slow-motion replay ended, the screen was restored to the scene of Qin Guang's knife and explosion. The combination of fast and slow was particularly refreshing. Everyone was finally sure that this guy was not messing around. This guy was really a completely unreasonable one-knife style. At the moment, Takedo Aoyama looked very pitiful. He had no distractions in his mind, and his expression was focused. Every cut was methodical and his movements were fast and precise. He was like a work of art. However, it was of no use. After the competition, if he found out that all the pencils that Qin Guang sharpened were qualified, he would probably start to doubt his life and go crazy. If it were not for her veto power, Marianne Harding would probably have left early. Impossible, this must be an illusion. Otherwise they must have cheated. The upper-class lady who was famous in the social circle, said through gritted teeth, "Chairman, shut up, Powell, you piece of trash. Is this how you become a certification officer? How dare you cheat in front of us?" Mrs. Harding glared at Powell. Powell's mouth twitched and he was already cursing in his heart. "You are the one who thinks that this is your modeling circle in Europe and America. You want to hit on any handsome man you see, and when you can't hit on him, you make us run errands for you. All right, since this is within the rules of Guinness World, I will acquiesce. Now, it is Qin Guang who is too scary and the employees in your company are not capable at all, but you are throwing the problem at me?" Powell could not help but be angry. Mrs. Harding had been ordering him around for the past 2 days, and in the end, he was the one who was being humiliated by her. "Don't go too far. You are Marianne, not Elizabeth." Finally, when the countdown reached the last second, Qin Guang stopped. He did not seem to have any abnormalities. His expression was calm and his hands were in his trouser pockets. In front of him were exactly 300 sharpened pencils. Hiroto Aoyama's hands were trembling and his face was pale. He reluctantly put down the knife in his hand. There were about 60 pens in front of him, but about 20 of them were cut. He was reluctant to turn his head and look in Qin Guang's direction. He was afraid to see a nightmarish scene. But he could not avoid it. From time to time he would turn his head to look at Qin Guang's position like a thief, and then he would hold his forehead in pain. "I'm seeing a ghost." Time turned back and his memory seemed to go back to yesterday. He was still lying in bed, discussing with his wife about opening another branch store. "Maybe I was too tired so I fell asleep while talking. I must still be dreaming. That's right, when I wake up, this nightmare will be over." Gradually he felt his head become very heavy. He became more and more absent-minded. He shook his head and his eyes became misty. At that moment, the excited shouts of the nearly 1,000 audience members in the broadcast hall turned into the roar of a monster in a nightmare. It was deafening, as if it was sealed in his mind. It echoed everywhere, becoming more and more ear-piercing and loud, as if his head was about to explode. "I have lost. I have completely lost. I do not have the strength to struggle at all. I'm not a match for this monster at all. He is not human. Yes, that's right. He is the demon in my dream. I have lost to the demon in my dream. It's okay. Let me have a good sleep and I will disappear from this ridiculous stage." He pressed his hands down on the table and his knuckles turned white. He opened and closed his eyes and his nose twitched. His expression was somewhat ferocious. The two hosts did not know that Hiroto Aoyama was in an abnormal state. They stood on the stage again and began to invite the 2 certification officers, Powell and Bloom, to count and inspect. In fact, this was completely meaningless. If Hiroto Aoyama was the person who controlled the world record, then Qin Guang was the god who had violently raised the world record by 7 or 8 times. On the other side, the cameraman had already pushed the equipment over. The special microscopic camera randomly selected and focused on the 300 iron tower pencil refills. Every pencil was perfect and impeccable. Qin Guang clapped his hands. He did not even bother to greet the others. He minded his own business and sat on the chair next to the contestants' resting area. He was about to cross his legs, but when he remembered that this was the recording of the show, he endured it. Powell and Bloom had no choice but to take their magnifying glasses and go on stage. Even if they were unwilling to admit it, they could not simply say that Qin Guang's iron towers were not up to standard. Because there are too many pencils, we will use the method of random inspection. Mr. Bloom and I will each check 20 pencils. If there are 40 pencils in total, then Qin Guang's challenge will naturally be successful. Powell just wanted to end this farce as soon as possible. He recalled what had happened earlier, and the look of disdain in Qin Guang's eyes when he had looked at him and Mrs. Smith. Powell felt that they were clowns who were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws in front of God. This was too ridiculous. The challenge mode was a complete joke. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.